And now, it's time to sit back and enjoy the Two True Freaks Internet Radio Broadcast.
Attention, people of Earth. Do not resist us. All who oppose us shall be annihilated. We command the most powerful army of monsters in the universe. They are sure to defeat your Earth monsters. All those who are hearing this are now under the control of the Earth Destruction Directive.
Hello everyone and welcome to Earth Destruction Directive. I am your host as always, Mr. Luke Giaconetti. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and downloading and listening to the show today. Hope everyone enjoyed our last episode where Dr. Bill Robinson and I took a look at the Bermuda Depths. And we are sticking with another film from the 70s, but we're going a little bit more traditional this time out. We are taking a look at the final film in the Showa era of the Godzilla series from Toho. We're taking a look at Terror of Mechagodzilla, and I am not alone. If I'm going to cover Terror of Mechagodzilla, there's only one man that I could get to cover that film with me. So everybody, please give a warm Earth Destruction Directive welcome to my brother, Mr. Jason Giaconetti. How's it going, Jay?
Good. Titanosaurus, what is the matter?
Just get in there. Yeah, the dub for this film holds a special place in both of our hearts, I think.
Yeah. Terror of Mechagodzilla is okay. So for those of you who can remember, obviously, there's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which is the movie right before this, right, kind of thing.
Yep.
To me, a lot of those movies kind of blended together because as a kid, I saw Terror of Mechagodzilla a lot more than I ever saw Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. But I'd seen it. But so when I watched the other one, I'm like, oh man, that's right. Like this is the movie where, and I'm like thinking like, oh, that stuff's all in that other movie. Like it's just so funny because as a kid, when they're on television and you're watching with commercials and they're cut and they're dubbed and whatever, there are parts that kind of blend together of the two movies. And yet when you watch them now, not cut up, not with commercials, actually in Japanese, whatever. They're two very different movies.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's very easy to tell them apart, but as a kid, they were just one kind of conglomerate movie to me.
Right.
So.
The fact that there was two movies with Mechagodzilla, and one of them, for me at least, was so I had never really seen. So it was very difficult for me to really tell them apart until I got them both on VHS. And Terror of Mechagodzilla, I said that one, at least when we were growing up in the 80s, to me was way more common, both on television and on VHS than Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla from the year prior. So I'm right there with you on that one. So I always think of Titanosaurus rather than King Caesar when it comes to Mechagodzilla. So Terror Mechagodzilla, the Japanese title is Mechagodzilla no Gyakushu, which literally is Mechagodzilla's counterattack. That is the common, when they have a direct sequel, it's somebody's counterattack. Was released in Japan on March 15th, 1975. Made its way to the U.S. in a very limited run 3 years later, March 1978. This version was released by Bob Kahn Enterprises under the title The Terror of Godzilla. Now, this version, this was actually cut down by about 4 minutes to receive a G rating. And this edited one is the one which eventually would become very readily available on VHS and DVD. I know my Paramount VHS is this Bob Kahn cut. The first Sony Classics Media one that I have in the Godzilla 5 pack is this cut down one. The one we had is when we were kids was this cut down one, and that was the one that was always on like Monster Vision and such on TBS. There is also, as my cat knocks over my power supply for my laptop. Thank you. There is also a TV version which was prepared by Henry Saperstein. We've heard that name before. He was a producer who considered himself to be Godzilla's agent in the U.S. and helped get a lot of Godzilla films over here. That one was almost completely uncut. And Jay, you know the scene that was cut. We'll talk about that. That went under the actual Toho's international title, which was Terror of Mechagodzilla. Now, I don't know the details, but sometime in the 1980s, in the early 1980s, that TV version, that almost uncut Saperstein version, went out of circulation and got replaced with the G-rated version but somehow the G-rated version then gained the Terror of Mechagodzilla title. So the odd thing is that both U.S. versions, use Toho's international dub. So, Titanosaurus, what's the matter? That's still in there. All of the I'll mention it when we get there, but one of my favorite lines in the movie is still in both U.S. versions. So it's out there. What's odd is that on the Sony Classics Media, the silver, like the book style one, that release has the Saperstein cut, the almost uncut U.S. version, and the Criterion edition doesn't have anything. It only has it in Japanese. So if you want a U.S. one, you got to get an older release. That Saperstein cut is also very odd in that it uses footage from, I think it's Monster Zero and Son of Godzilla, and it makes like a couple of minutes long prologue that explains Godzilla's history. It's very weird. And I don't know that I ever actually saw that one on TV. I only have seen it because I have that Classics Media DVD. I
can honestly say I do not remember ever seeing that cut on television.
Yeah.
I've seen the G-rated cut. I've seen plenty of times.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But and the thing is, again, I have the same criterion that you have. I watched this on HBO Max, streaming on my tablet. And it's the Criterion. That's what they show because they have the greater. So there's no, because I went on and said, oh wait, let me see if there's other options, because it says like language, English, and I'm like, oh okay, they're going to show me, and I didn't know which version they were going to show me. Well, the whole movie's in Japanese, and I'm like, this is the uncut Japanese version. I was like, oh yeah, they don't have the other version. I always thought it would be kind of weird that because Criterion doesn't have the rights to the cut, which is as weird as that might sound, folks. They have the rights to the entire movie, but not the cut version of the movie.
Right. It's so strange in that Criterion that certain films have the U.S. dub and certain don't. And of course, the oddest one, of course, is King Kong versus Godzilla, where the U.S. I think what is it? Either is it the Japanese one is included as a bonus feature? Yep. It's not included because, and the stated reason, if I'm remembering correctly, is that they couldn't clean it up enough, couldn't get clean enough elements to release it as a feature, but it's a bonus feature. It's like, okay, but
that's also Criterion, not to cut you off, sorry, but that's also Criterion holding things to a certain standard, especially for their Blu-rays. One of the things that, and for those who haven't figured this out, my brother and I do, support obviously physical media. Some people would be very, very angry if, let's say, the Japanese cut of King Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus King Kong, kind of thing was out there, and it wasn't as pristine as the other versions. They would immediately complain, "How dare you do this? Make a new disc!" But as making it a special feature and being honest about, like, "Hey, we couldn't get it as clean as this version, but it's what it's going to be there." People are more forgiving. We've seen this. I don't want to guess too far afield, but we saw this with Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Yes.
Literally, I bought the Blu-ray and I'm watching it going, this is as clean as I've never seen it clearer than this. And we got a recall notice and all this stuff. Like, we're going to send you a new disc. And I'm like, okay. The new disc comes. I put it on. I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But one of them was only a 2K restoration. The other's a 4K. I'm like, okay. Like they said, it's so muddy and dirty. I'm like, I'm watching it on a 55-inch television. My eyes must not be that good because I can't tell the difference. And to the point where, I mean, you've seen it. There's no way. Like the Blu-ray that came out looked perfectly fine. It wasn't like they had a different cut of the movie, so I could understand that.
And wasn't it with Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia? Wasn't it a situation where they had advertised specifically that it was a 4K restoration, and it was an accident that they pressed the 2K, and that's why they did the disc? So I can sort of see that, where it's like, okay, we promoted one thing and we provided you with another, so we're on the hook for that.
Yeah, but, that's
Like,
exactly.
again, you look at it, it's like my eyes are apparently not good enough either, because it's like, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, the problem was the 2K version they used was used in error. And that was the original release, was a 2K restoration, which is pristine. I mean, having seen that movie not restored, I was surprised there was people in scenes I'd never seen. And I don't mean like, like in like The Hills Have Eyes where it's pitch black and you have people in the scene. Like I'm like, well, there's a guy over there. Because the scope of the movie, for those who haven't seen it, you really should watch it on a big screen.
Yeah.
Everything's so big and it's so much about the desert and so much about whatever. It would be like the Magnificent Seven, not Magnificent Seven, excuse me, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, when they did the 4K restoration of it. I brought that over to show Dad, and he's like, well, how much better could it be than the Blu-ray? He put the Blu-ray on, which was a port of the DVD upscaled, and I put on 4K, and he goes, oh, wow. Yeah, I see the difference. That you could tell.
Right.
I couldn't see it here. And I know we're talking Godzilla movies. The thing is, some of those criterions, again, if you don't own the Criterion set, folks, I mean, I don't know how else to sell it to you, but it's outstanding. When we started watching some of those, I was like, oh man, look at this. Looks like a totally different movie.
Oh yeah.
And
you and I, and we'll talk about this. We covered Hedra and we covered the previous Mechagodzilla. And then I covered Gigan with Nathan Marchand and I covered Megalon with Joe Butler. Especially these 70s movies. It is night and day how much better these 70s movies look on that Criterion edition. It literally is like discovering the movies again.
It would be like watching a movie through dirty windows, and then now moving said windows, and now you can see it actually occurring.
Yeah,
and it's weird to think that it was that bad, because I mean, even the DVDs, the step between the who put those out, was it Sony? Who put out the DVDs?
Yeah, Sony Classics Media. Yeah, yeah.
And then even those to the ones in the books was better, but even the ones in like the little books, like I'm trying to think. Okay,
that was Classic Media, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying with their original releases, some of their original releases to those, they got a little better. But even then, it's just so much better than that. And again, I'd rather have a version that's kind of a little dirty, and be able to have it and own it and be able to watch it than not have it at all. Which is one of the complaints some people had with certain versions of certain movies, was that, hey, we've never had the actual Japanese cut of this movie officially released here in America, and now we do. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't want to freestyle too much of that, but I do get that to a degree, that people that's like, well, if we're going to get the Japanese one, we should get the best possible one available, and I totally agree with that. But at the same time, growing up in the VHS era, just getting some of these in widescreen, forget uncut, just getting them in widescreen is mind blowing. It's absolutely, the first time you watch, and again, Joe Butler and I talked about this. The first time you watch Godzilla vs. Megalon in widescreen, it's like, you better put on a helmet because I'm about to blow your mind. That kind of thing. So, and this film is no different. And so let me get into the crew here, because there's some heavy hitters on this, and we'll start right at the top. The director, Ishiro Honda, making his return to the series that he launched back in 1954 with Gojira. Honda, of course, legendary Daikaiju director. He did Gojira, as I said, Rodan, Mothra, King Kong vs. Godzilla, Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah, Monster Zero, War of the Gargantuars, Destroy All Monsters. I could go on. This was actually his first film that he directed since 1970, when he directed Space Amoeba, which you know better as Yog, Monster from Space.
Yep.
And so he had done some TV in the interim, but this was Honda's return right in time to end the series. And it's very odd, not odd, but it's very fitting, of course, that he's the beginning and the end, right? He did the first one of the Showa series and he did the last one. But going from Jun Fukuda back to Ishiro Honda, it's amazing how clear the difference between the two directors is plain to see just watching like this film and the previous one, how much different the direction is. Yeah. So our writer is Yukiko Takayama. Now, Takayama, not a name we've mentioned before on this show. She has several Japanese TV writing credits, a few film and directing credits as well. There is one entitled Kaze no Katami, which it looks like a horror movie, because Kaze no Takame is a type of yokai. It's a like a ghost. I think it's like a ghost that inhabits paintings or something like that. I was trying to read up on this. It looks kind of like a horror or supernatural film, but I can't find any information. I don't think it was ever brought over to the West. Takayama actually got this gig by winning Toho's script contest for writing a sequel to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Toho did this not irregularly in the 70s and 80s. Now, evidently, from what I was reading, the only requirement from Toho was to include Mechagodzilla in the story. Yeah. So all elements like Titanosaurus, Katsura, Mifune, all that was all Takayama's creations. So it's like all the stuff that makes this movie unique and interesting all came from her. So I think that's really cool. And actually, Ishiro Honda had made a statement, or he's quoted as saying once, that he wished more women had written for the series because he thought that having a woman writing the screenplay brought a different sort of feel and energy to the movie.
Yeah, and Honda's wife, Kimi Honda, said that it was actually Takayama herself who had said she wanted Honda to direct her screenplay. Yeah, he said that I guess Honda had learned that Takayama was from Yamagata, and so I guess which is where he's from also. And he decided to take on the project because it was again, while the movie was going to be made either way because she won the contest, having Ichiro Honda direct it is a little, that's like, it's one thing to have a movie directed, and I'm not knocking anybody else who made other Godzilla movies, but let's be honest, like, there's a difference when you say like, oh, I'm going to have, Honda directing this compared to having, whoever, the guy like,
Jun Fukuda or somebody else that was seen as a second, as not as good as Honda, and again, taking nothing away from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Fukuda.
Not taking, not to degrade anybody.
Now this, Now this I did not know, but in doing the research, I found this. So Takayama, she wrote a novella that is a sequel to this film. Okay. And the novella is entitled 2075 Meister Titanos Counterattack. And this actually resurrects Titanosaurus as a cyborg. And it brought Katsura back under a new identity. If you go to Toho Kingdom, that's tohokingdom.com, they actually have a full translation of the novella up for you to read. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out because that sounds fascinating. And you get the idea from watching this film that, the characters of Dr. Mifune and Katsura and Titanosaurus, she obviously had a lot of affection for those characters. And those, you can just tell from the story that happens that those were clearly important characters. So I'm really curious to see where she takes those characters, or at least the characters of Titanosaurus and Katsura 100 years in the future after this film is set.
Yeah. So your producer, Tomoyuki
Tanaka. Yeah.
Yeah. He had actually really, like, when they had the screen, she won the contest. What they would have done was, the original plan was to take her script idea and have someone, go through it and punch it up or rewrite it, whatever. But he liked it so much, he had her do the actual screenplay, which was not the original plan, which is, I think, again, as you said, speaks volumes to how much she had involved in each one of these characters, even from I don't want to say just a screenplay, but from a treatment. Kind of aspect. She knew these characters inside and out, and obviously the characters that are quote unquote the new characters to this whole film are all her. I mean, again, Godzilla's Godzilla, Mechagodzilla's Mechagodzilla. Even though they act a little differently, maybe than they did other places, they are not new characters. It's someone else writing, someone else's creation. But her characters that she created are completely unique to this story.
Right.
So.
And watching this, you can imagine an alternate universe where this movie exists without Mechagodzilla.
Yep.
It's not a leap to say, yes, there's a movie that stars Godzilla and Titanosaurus and Katsura that does not necessarily involve Mechagodzilla. And that's a good thing. That's not a criticism, One last note on Takayama. The second female actually to be credited with writing a Godzilla film, Kazue Kiba, was credited as a collaborator with Shinichi Sekizawa on Son of Godzilla, but the only woman get a sole writing credit on a Godzilla film. So it's still very cool. And as I said, she did some other stuff. That this is the one she is best known for, especially obviously in the fandom. Our music is Akira Ifukube, and much like Honda, this film marked the return of legendary genre vet Ifukube on the score. Again, way too many classic monster movie scores to list here, but I will say, if you scrub back a few minutes, all those movies I said that Honda directed, Ifukube did the score for all of them. So again, this was the first new score from Ifukube for a Daikaiju movie since Space Amoeba. Godzilla vs. Gigan does use Ifukube music, but it was not original. It was recycled stuff that was used in that film. Our director of special effects is Teruyoshi Nakano, excuse me. Now this is actually getting towards the end of his tenure as a director of special effects. Nakano had been in this role since Godzilla vs. Hedorah, which, as I said, you and I covered, which was in 1971. He would actually continue. He did everything through Return of Godzilla in 1984, and I think he also did Sayonara Jupiter also in 1984. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know he did Return of Godzilla. It's so funny to me because Nakano's work was dismissed for so long, but it's found a lot of fans in the last 10, 15 years. As I think we revisit those films from the 1970s, as we were saying, as we're starting to see them in widescreen and on Blu-ray and restored, but also as we start to consider what he was able to pull off given the budgets and schedules he had to work with on those movies. And I think Nakano has had a lot more fans in, like I said, the last 10, 15 years than he did maybe back in the 80s, where those 70s movies were looked down on more than they are now.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, folks, it's reported that they had about a month to shoot this thing.
Right.
That's crazy. A month. Yeah. You can't even get dialogue for an animated movie done in a month nowadays. Kind of thing, like a month to put together a movie with guys in suits, 3 different guys in suits, because it's not like any of them are staying like Titanosaurus, Mechagodzilla, Godzilla. They're all men wearing suits, and they're doing these fights, and there's jet planes, and there's everything else, kind of thing. So
yeah.
I just wanted to put real quick. I didn't know. I mean.
Sure.
There's 2 things. Well, first of all, this movie is the first film to bring back the Godzilla March heard as the main title theme in the original, so it's brought it back. But I didn't know if you wanted to talk about. There's all this stuff about the German release, the German and Italian release. Do you want to save this for the end? Because it's really funny.
Let me just. I got 2 other members of the crew. We can then talk about that.
Yeah.
Just real quick about Nakano. We will see again in this film. Man, it's cliche, but man, did he like to blow stuff up.
Oh yeah.
That is what he is always. And no matter how you criticize, the dude could do some explosions. And the last member of the crew I want to mention, you mentioned him already, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka, the godfather of Godzilla, produced all of Godzilla's movies right up until he passed away in 1997. So all of the Showa films, all of the Heisei films, all have Tanaka's name on them, and that was his role. So that was it's always that last credit produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka. It's always get it there because it's in all those movies,
Yep.
So it was it was pretty sad when you get to Godzilla 2000 and he's not there, because he had in the interim he had passed away. So yeah, let's talk about some of the alternate releases. This film has a few oddball versions out there.
Well, the 2 that stick out to me, and some of this I learned a lot of this from. I knew about this coming in from John LeMay and his books about the. He covers all the Godzilla movies and stuff like that, and the lost versions and the different versions, and especially his King Kong stuff. And you'll say King Kong's on this movie, Jay, but you'll hear in a minute.
Oh, he might be. Yeah.
So both German and Italian releases of the film reference actually King Kong. The German version is called Konga Godzilla King Kong Die Brut des Treffels. Sorry, my German's atrocious.
Yeah.
Konga Godzilla King Kong, the Brood of the Devil.
Yeah.
With King Kong referring to Mechagodzilla and Konga referring to Titanosaurus.
Yes.
The monsters, however, are called by their real names in the movies, German
Yes.
dub. So
there are several German releases that all include King Kong in the title that are of movies that don't have King Kong in it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
So the Italian release is called Distrugget Kong, La Terra e in particular. Destroy Kong, Earth is in peril, which is what it comes down to. Titanosaurus was renamed to Kong, and the actual King Kong was even featured on the poster despite not appearing in the film. So, the film was shown in these countries around the time of the release of Kong 76. Now,
Naturally.
Just as an aside, for those of you who listen to the Boss Bugs and Babes, you already know my feelings about Kong 76.
Yes.
I just cannot escape that movie.
No.
Kong 76, as put aside how we might feel about the film or anything else, was a very big deal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that's the best way. It was a very big deal. It was hyped. It was a blockbuster. It was whatever it might have turned out. And the people in charge of promotion likely wanted to capitalize on this, with the German distributors also taking, obviously, inspiration from Conga, which is 1961. If you haven't seen these posters, Google them. Look them up. Look them up on Google. You're going to be like, what? Is this even the right movie? Yes, it is. And I'm sure right now John LeMay is giggling to himself, thinking like, "Oh yeah, Jay, you didn't see it because this is not even it." So for those of you who have seen John LeMay's books and whatever kind of thing, you'll understand. But he likes finding all the oddball posters and different cuts and stuff. And if I come across them, I will send him posters going, "Look at this one. Have you seen this one?" And every once in a while, we come across some of them. He's like, "Oh, I've never seen like this one from Turkey or this one from whatever." And they're just, some of you are like, "This is for what movie?" None of these people are in it. It even has the credit. Like sometimes they'll have the wrong credits on the bottom. Like people like say like this movie was directed by Ichiro Honda. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was directed by this guy. Like they didn't care.
No.
Did it look good on a poster? Put it up there.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Absolutely.
So I wanted to make sure I shared that because I knew I didn't want to forget to put that in because it's just funny as heck. Because let's be very honest.
So I think in Germany, I want to say Godzilla vs. Gigan was like Frankenstein's Hellbrood or something.
Yes, I'm almost 100% sure it's called that. I think it's that.
Which apropos of nothing, would make a fantastic band name.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Again, I'm not trying to derail us. I know we haven't even talked about the relationship, but just sometimes when you go look, especially the ones in the 70s, look at the international releases. Because remember, as Luke said, that this movie came out in 75 in Japan, but we didn't get it till 78 here.
Yeah.
So Kong 76 already came out. And if it's in other places, and Kong 76 was a very big deal all over the world, they were trying to cash in. I would do it. I mean,
for sure.
For those of you who may not even remember Kong 76 at all, look at all the cash-ins that were the tie-ins of cash-ins. The tie-ins for Kong 76 based on that actual movie.
Right.
Like all the places that Kong came up everywhere. And it kind of was like everyone was trying to cash in on that, on that movie. It makes perfect sense that if I'm going to get a movie, I'm going to cash in it this way. And let's be honest, I mentioned Germany and Italy. Are there any two places in the world that will take an idea from someplace and make 50 movies about it?
Right.
Even if it's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
How many?
Italy especially. That's how you know your movie's popular. It's like, well, how many Italian ripoffs were there?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I say that as a huge fan of numerous Italian ripoffs. That's not even me being mean.
Yeah. If you think that we're joking, you literally could look at how many movies were called Django that had nothing to do with the original Django with Franco Nero, right? Kind of, right? Or how many Jaws movies, how many how
many zombie ripoffs, how many Escape from New York ripoffs, how many Conan ripoffs,
and some of those movies are actually outstanding, and some of them are like outstanding in the street. Outstanding in traffic. Sorry, let's get rolling on this thing because we still got to talk about how this movie is completely different than what we watched when we were children.
Yeah,
because it was shocking. Shockingly
It
different.
was pretty shocking.
Especially considering I thought it was in English at first, and then it wasn't. And then it showed me the full version, and I go, I don't know if I've ever seen this. So,
All right. So real quick, just to talk about the cast a little bit. Katsuhiko Sasaki plays Ichinose. He is our marine biologist and our hero. Probably best known, he's Goro from Godzilla vs. Megalon, the guy that created Jet Jaguar.
Yep.
Also appeared in Prophecies of Nostradamus. He would later come back for Godzilla vs. Biollante and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. I mentioned this in the Megalon episode. Amusingly enough, he's the Japanese voice actor in the Japanese dubs for Admiral Stentz in the Japanese dubs of Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters. So the admiral that commands the aircraft carrier and then drops the oxygen destroyer, he's his voice in Japan.
Oh, okay.
That just amused me for some reason. I don't know. Our Tomoko Ai, she plays Katsura. Not many credits. She's probably best known for this film, I would go and say. Tomoko would go on to make a couple of Pink films in Japan in the 1980s. She did some TV work as well. She also appears in a single episode of Ultraman Leo from 1974. Again, in a role that doesn't have a name. She's just like person, like, athlete at gym or something like that.
Yeah, well.
So, that's what you get. What's that?
That happens.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Wilson was what? Pizza shop owner.
Right.
He had speaking lines in the episode. It's like they didn't have a name, just called Pizza Shop Owner.
Pizza Shop Owner.
What was the best one? Oh, it was large threatening man across the street. That was one of the when he was on our cousin who has passed away was an actor, and he was in Get Shorty. No, not Be Cool. He was in
Be Cool. He was in Be Cool. He was on The Sopranos. Law and Order.
He's John Travolta's bodyguard in Be Cool. So he's the giant man that's driving the Prius. That's our cousin.
Yeah.
But he actually had a credit of a role one time called large yelling man across the street, and it was on Law and Order. And I was like, that's our cousin. And you could Dominic. He was big and loud. So anyway, sorry, was not in this movie though.
Not in this movie. No, he did not cross over. Did not cross over. Next, I got here's a familiar name, Akihiko Harada, who plays Dr. Mifune, another legend of Toho science fiction. Harada joins up with Honda Nifukube in bookending the Showa series because he was Dr. Serizawa in Gojira.
Yeah.
Also appears in Rodan, The Mysterians, The H-Man, Gorath, King Kong vs. Godzilla, and many others. Also,
on purpose.
What's that?
I think they brought him back on purpose. Like they said, we got him.
Yeah.
So too.
Especially in a big role where he plays a professor or a doctor,
Yeah.
I
always thought that, like, okay, it's something you would definitely do nowadays for sure, but I didn't. Like, I'm looking at it going, I gotta have a feeling they did this on purpose. It was like, hey, you free? Yeah, I got nothing better to do. I'll come, be a doctor in this movie again.
Right.
So,
but then he's got a major role,
Yeah, yeah.
And what's funny is that, okay, he also had a major role the year before in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. He's Professor Miyajima. He's one of the heroes. He's the guy who blows up the black hole aliens with the pipe.
Yes, yes.
So it's like, and very similarly, Goro Mutsumi, who plays Commander Mongol. You remember the last movie when Goro Mutsumi played the evil commander of the aliens? Yeah, he does that here too, but he's playing a different character.
Yeah, he's typecast.
Well, I guess the way prize this is that the black hole aliens are wearing human disguises. So I guess this is the mask they use for the commander. Yeah, we look like that guy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we get the glasses. Yeah, perfect. Look at him. He's in charge,
We all wear the same uniforms. We look like a team. We're going to other planets here. We're all going together.
Yeah. Our jumpsuit technology is light years beyond yours, So I said it in the Mysterian, so help me God, I'm still saying it now. So two small roles I want to mention. Kenji Sahara, who plays the defense commander, who I think has about 5 lines in this. Another very familiar face. He's Shigeru from Rodan. Yeah. Another longtime Toho player. Appeared in a bunch of films after this. He was even in Final Wars. So he was around for quite a long time. The other one I want to mention, Ikio Saramura. He plays Mifune's butler, who is teaming around with Katsura at some points in this. Best known to me, he's the fisherman from Ghidorah who finds the princess.
Yes. Yeah.
But instantly recognizable as several wormy-looking guys in the different Godzilla films. It's like that wormy guy, that's him right there. That's her. That's her right there, and that's her too. You know.
Oh.
So.
I feel like it's funny you say that wormy guy.
Yeah.
When we watched Treasure of Dracula? Is that the same?
Yep.
Right? The wormy guy in there, I'm like, that wormy guy is just ripping off every wormy guy in every Godzilla movie ever. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure everyone has a wormy guy in their thing, but like the wormy guy there, I'm like, he looks like every wormy guy.
Hey, Cal, when you get up there, you'll remember me, right? I'm the wormy guy. Out of the way, wormy. I used to play on a mush with a gal. She loved that line. She would say, "Out of the way, wormy." Just anytime the mood struck her.
I'm sorry to kind of derail that, but it's just funny. See, folks, you have to understand. As much as like when Luke and Dr. Bill are on, and they get and their tangents and stuff. Luke and I have had tangents together for over 40 years. So these things, we have jokes on jokes, kind of things that have gone on and on and on and on to the point where even our children know these jokes and make these jokes without even realizing that they're making jokes that are just, designed 40 years into play. So anyway, so
it's amazing when you get someone who has no idea what they're saying, but they know. For example, that top guys don't carry their own bags. They know that, and they'll tell me that, when I'm carrying bags. I was like, Daddy, top guys don't carry their own bags. Yes, I know. Thank you.
Yeah. My daughter knows that every time I lug her 30 pounds of out of the trunk and I'm going down a flight of steps, she goes, I go, Kaylee, you want to help? She goes, Dad, top guys don't carry bags. And I go, yeah, but if your old man falls down the steps, he's got the keys to get you home. I fell on my keys. Careful in the tubes back. Careful in the tubes back here, man.
We're on the road, we're in the tubes back here. Okay, so that's like our human cast. Our monster cast. Toru Kawai plays Godzilla. He played Godzilla on Zone Fighter, so I thought that was pretty cool. Played various Ultra monsters over the years. Also plays the Tyrannosaurus in The Last Dinosaur. So that's a pretty good role there, And Kazunari Mori, he returns as Mechagodzilla after playing him in the previous film. So again, just step right back in. Obviously, the suit was ready for him. Yeah. And finally, Tatsumi Nikamoto, he plays Titanosaurus. Appropriately, he played Zone Fighter on Zone Fighter. So he in fact, I want to say that actually is how I want to say I read that's how he got the job, is that he had worked with Kawai, and so they were comfortable with each other, so that's how he stepped in as Titanosaurus, because Godzilla and Titanosaurus obviously interact a lot in this movie. Nikamoto would later transition to actually becoming a stunt coordinator for various Ultra shows. And if you look at his credits, he's always like stunt coordinator, and then he plays like, security guard, or he plays like some role where they need him to step in and be in front of the camera as well. Yeah. At this point, Toho was just getting stuntmen. They weren't using the suit actors. Haruo Nakajima had since retired. We had not gotten into, we were getting out of having, the repeat performances from folks. And obviously with this being the last film for 9 years, none of these folks ever got the opportunity to play in a Godzilla film after this.
So what's funny is, and for those who are Friday the 13th fans, this is the opposite of what they did.
Yes.
13th movies, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th by this point, sorry, spoilers are, when Jason shows up in part 2, because the Jason in part 1 is just a guy jumping out of the lake, whatever kind of thing, right? They're just stuntmen until Kane Hodder took over. Kane Hodder is a stuntman, but he's also, brought, like, he repeated as it. He became an actor. He became a suit actor, and this is not taking anything away from the other people who played Jason in previous movies, because they were actors in their own right, but they are known as stuntmen, kind of thing, and that's kind of how they got the role. They were big guys. It's kind of funny that the Godzilla movies went, and the kaiju movies went, starting with suit actors, then going to stuntmen because it's just cheaper.
Right.
And then Friday the 13th movies which, let's be honest, were just, those things were just able to print money. Literally, it's just a license to print money. They started with just stuntmen, and then eventually got to a stuntman who was an actual character actor, and became, and Kane Hodder's whole career took off from being Jason Voorhees, but still.
To the point that when Kane Hodder was not in Freddy vs. Jason, it was Ken Krasinger, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm saying his name right.
Yes, Ken Krasinger's stuntman.
Yeah, and Ken Krasinger is in Friday the 13th 8.
Yeah.
Kane Hodder.
He's the, what do you call? He's
the cook, isn't he?
He's the cook. He also was the stunt double, because there were some scenes that, because they didn't want Kane to get hurt, because they needed Kane for certain scenes for sure. He stunt doubled Kane on a couple of scenes when they just had to do like certain, like the car getting hit by the car. I'm sorry to talk about Friday the 13th, but like when Kane's, they're like, Kane, you can't get hit by the car. He goes, I want to get hit by the car. And then Ken's like, I can get hit by a car. And they go, let's have Ken get hit by a car. Like, they're fighting over who's getting hit by a car, which I know sounds crazy.
Stuntmen are not normal. They're not normal dudes. There's, that's a whole other breed that, of mindset.
And I'm just going to throw that out there. If you've never seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino film, oh my God, go do yourself a favor. Finish this podcast, then go watch that, because Brad Pitt plays a stuntman in there, but you kind of understand how it's like a different breed. And then if you've never seen Death Proof,
yes,
you can understand how Brad Pitt and Kurt Russell, who are brothers, by the way, in storyline. There's no secret there. The difference of a stuntman when he's the height of stuntmen, and then stuntmen when they're kind of getting older, and you had a 50-50 shot. It was left or right, and you picked the wrong way. So I'm just saying, two of my favorite movies, both Tarantino stuff. Anyway, so
they would of course get back to that in the 80s and such, but now we're in so much with CG and all that even traditional suitmation is just tough. But so that's all I've got in the background. Do you have anything you want to bring up before we get into the synopsis and start talking about the actual movie, now that we're like almost 45 minutes in?
I just want to mention this. This is the 15th Godzilla movie, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And obviously it was the end of the Showa series and stuff. And part of what we saw in the 70s movies was, and I think Luke and I mentioned this probably in Godzilla versus Smog Monster, but each of those movies are so different than each other that I think that's one of the reasons why people really look down on them, because they weren't all just cookie cuttered. Because they were so different, I enjoy them. And Luke obviously enjoys them. And obviously you're listening to the show. Hopefully you enjoy this kind of stuff, right? But I'm saying is, there was a time when they were all looked down upon as being below the stuff from the 60s. Yes. And it's like so funny when you look back. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking like Rodan, which is I love Rodan. It's one of my favorite monster movies of all time and things like that. Like, I'm not knocking those movies either, but it was just such a breath of fresh air sometimes to see something so different on the screen. Like, because sometimes you watch a movie like, oh, okay, they're gonna fight again. All right, we're gonna have this. Oh, we guess this is gonna happen again. Like, and I'm not saying they were cookie cuttered, but there was much more of that.
There was elements that were used more often, and we've talked about this. Shinichi Sekazawa, excuse me, who wrote quite a lot of those 60s movies. Yeah. There were certain elements that he kept going back to. Yep. And they become generic tropes after a while. And that whereas these films in the 70s, some of those tropes exist, some of them don't. And it's because they're different. The aliens using monsters as weapons of mass destruction, that continues. We see that a lot. We see that in four of the we see that in four of the last five films of the Showa period. We see that. The only way we don't get that in is Hedra. The last four films all use that. But the idea of like Pacific Islands, strange juices, monster gods, all those things that were more common in the 60s are not there, and it gives them almost a more modernist sort of feel, right? Because they deal more with pollution and ecology. So they almost are a bit more. They seem more forward looking at the time in the 70s, and we saw this in science fiction in the West too. That we moved away from what we might consider traditional golden age science fiction and got more of this type of in the West, especially more edgy type of content in the 70s. You know, of course, I say that, but then what did we get? We got the greatest space opera of all time in the 70s, right? As a direct callback to the golden age of science fiction.
Which is why Star Wars is still, I mean, Star Wars is one of the most influential movies ever made, because it literally was so, it's so funny because it's not, if that movie was made, well, you couldn't have made it years earlier. It's just let's pretend the technology existed to make it years earlier. I don't think it would have had the same impact it would have had, because you had to have other things occur. That I talk about all the time. You had to have these movies occur and then Star Wars. And you're like, oh, look at that. It's like, of course.
Yeah,
but that's
you need the cynicism of the front half of the 1970s.
Yes.
For the and I don't mean, I swear I don't mean this as a criticism, the naivete of Star Wars to work. Right? You need that complete, sincere, honest storytelling. Doesn't work if you don't have the more grounded, the decade that wore brown, right? If you don't have that portion of the 70s, you can't have Star Wars. And I think in a way, if you don't have these movies, you can't have Return of Godzilla 10 years later.
100%.
You know, if you can't have these ones that are a little silly in parts and cheaper and obviously a bit more rushed, you can't have the big serious reboot 9 years down the road.
And I think probably the best way to say this is, for those of you who know your 1 million years BC, if all you ever seen is women with black hair, and all of a sudden Raquel Welch shows up and she's blonde hair, hey, look at this, you know, kind of thing. Like,
we could throw that back to King Kong. There's not a lot of blondes around here.
I didn't want to go back to all the way back to King Kong, but of course, yes, that is where that's the same idea, right?
Or was it would say blondes are scarce in these parts? Is that the line?
Yeah, blondes are pretty scarce in these parts.
Yeah,
he'll trade us 5 of his girls for Anne. Yeah, blondes are pretty scarce in these parts. The whole point is, though, if you have to have that. Like, if you don't have, forget even science fiction. If you don't even have Dirty Harry and Bullet and like all that, like the Crazy Larry, whatever, make all those kind of, like, if you don't have the grime of the as Luke said, the cynicism, you don't have Star Wars. If you don't have the move away from the 60s era of Godzilla movies into what's in the 70s, I don't know if Godzilla 84, I mean, it'll obviously they would have made Godzilla again, because let's be honest, there's just, again, we're printing money. I don't think, I just don't think you get the grandiose of Godzilla 84, Return of Godzilla, excuse me, or Godzilla 1984. I don't know if you get that, because I think what they were saying was, look, this guy's been on the shelf for like almost a decade. Let's go, full out. Let's go all in on this guy. And let's be honest, Godzilla 85 or Godzilla 84, I grew up knowing it as Godzilla 85. That spawned like the next wave of Godzilla movies, and we have some of the. I mean, I guess it's very hard to say there's anything more iconic than like Ghidorah and Rodan and whatever. But Biollante, people seem to love her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like Destroya, people seem to love them. So I'm just saying,
for a generation of Godzilla fans, those Heisei films, that is Godzilla. For a generation, especially, and I'm sure I'm gonna get myself in trouble for this. The generation around our age, maybe slightly younger. Those because those were the ones that started coming out on when Sony started putting those out on VHS and then early DVD. Those were readily available. Those started showing up on Sci-Fi Channel. Those 90s movies mean a lot to a lot of people. Like you said, Biollante is one of them. Destoroyah is, again, and I talked about this when I covered it. When you look at it objectively, yes, the movie has faults, but Destoroyah means a lot to a lot of people. And I know you're one of them, that Destoroyah means a lot to you. And that those Heisei movies, they meant a lot in the 90s when you were a kid growing up in the 80s, and now Godzilla was not only back, but it was to the next level as far as the just because, again, you were used to these films from the 60s and 70s, and now things were really stepping up. And again, and you can argue the merits back and forth and all that, but as a fan in their teenage years, those movies were very important. I remember when HBO aired Godzilla vs. Biollante, and I got to see Godzilla vs. Biollante. That was like a seminal moment as a Godzilla fan for me, in like 1992 or 93 when that was on HBO.
So it's the world where, and this is hard for some people because it depends on your age. There's a world before Star Wars.
Right.
That's where the movies we're talking, that's where these movies live. Star Wars occurs while Godzilla's on the shelf. Then, what do you call it? We get the next Godzillas, and let's be honest, you have Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi all come out. Return of the Jedi is close, but they all come out before Godzilla comes back. Ish. Right. A lot changed in the effects industry. A lot changed in science fiction. A lot changed in blockbusters. And now the Godzilla movies coming out in the 80s were, I mean, not that they weren't blockbusters back in the, like these movies made a lot of money, but like I'm saying, they were to look like blockbusters. They were to compete not only in the East, but in the West, and not just cutesy kids movies, quote unquote. I mean, I know that this movie is not really 100% kids movie, but like,
no, but they had a different marketing aim also.
Yeah. And
I mean,
they became
even let's take it a step back. Even before Star Wars, this movie comes out the same year as Jaws.
Yep.
And again, without Jaws, Star Wars doesn't happen because Jaws creates the idea of tentpole cinema. And I mean, I literally took film class about Jaws for that very reason. God, I love Jaws. It's such a good movie.
Isn't it funny though? We're real quick. Isn't it funny how without Jaws, we don't have tentpole movies, right? It's just about a shark. Just a movie about a shark.
Yeah.
Right. It's about a shark. Without King Kong and the level of love that King Kong had in Japan, especially.
Yes.
I don't know if we get Godzilla the way we don't get Godzilla the way we do. I'm not saying Godzilla wouldn't have happened, but it's not Godzilla the way we know it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that these movies that people kind of like, because I don't know if Haley's ever seen Jaws all the way through. She's seen most of Jaws, but she was little. I don't know if she's seen Jaws all the way through. But she knew what Jaws was before she saw it. She knew what King Kong was before she saw it. People know Godzilla without ever seeing it. It's so funny how intertwined so many important and iconic film and industry and things like that, how often they influence each other to become great. The reality is there are scores of giant bug movies, right?
Yes.
There's only one them.
Right.
Right? There's scores of zombie movies, right, that were born out of a little tiny movie made in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, right? Night of the Living Dead becoming what it was, right? And the idea of zombies becoming that and growing and expanding to this multi-billion-dollar industry. Godzilla, the idea of a giant, and let's call it what it is, kind of like a dinosaur. Yeah. Like, how many other times have we seen this? Is there Jurassic Park? Is there whatever without Godzilla? I mean, technically, Michael Crichton could have wrote those books, but let's be honest, if it's not for that, I mean, everyone points back at Kong and everything like that, and then Kong led to Godzilla. Like, when you listen to Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren and these guys, they talk about these things. They talk about Ray Harryhausen and the special effects he was doing with stop motion. But some things can't be done with stop motion, so he did them with guys in suits. And then sometimes it had to be done with puppets, and some puppets are better than others. And sometimes, like, innovation and the growth of an industry are so often, I don't think, okay, I shouldn't say that. There are people who probably make movies just to make a movie because they're trying to make whatever. But I think people try to make the best movie they can.
Yes.
But I don't think sometimes people, people are like, I'm trying to make the best movie I can make, right? And then sometimes you get Cleopatra, and then sometimes you get, Jaws.
Right.
And both movies were hyped to the moon, but I'll be honest, Jaws is so much more influential and important in the grand scheme of things than Cleopatra ever was. Even though, Cleopatra's, the thousands of people in the cast and the amount of money spent and whatever. And I'm not trying to just downgrade Cleopatra, but I'm just using it as an example. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at that and what it meant going forward. And so, I'm sorry, we still haven't talked about plot. We're an hour in.
Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, all of it is, like you say, a lot of it is intertwined, and again, I'll give me 1 minute on my soapbox. It is, it is my show, so I guess I can have as long as I want. But indulge me for 1 minute. This is why when I say at the end of the show that Earth Destruction Directive is for everyone, this is part of the reason. Because I always think of like the Joker in Batman '89. This is attractive. That is not. I've moved beyond all that, right? And I'm not putting myself over. What I'm saying is that if you like something, and if you like something because of a certain reason, that's okay. There's not one way to consume this, because we all come at it from any piece of media, any film, any TV show, any comic, any record. We come at it with our own experiences, right? As we say on John Boy and Billy, it's based on all our experiences. So we bring our own preconceptions and biases. We bring those to them. Our background with King Kong influences how I'm a Godzilla fan, right? If you've never been, and I had a conversation on a chat, and we were talking about how they announced a new MonsterVerse film coming in 2024. Yep. And there were some people saying, it's like, well, it's just a King Kong film. It's like, just a King Kong film? It's a King Kong film, right? Even if Godzilla's not in it, it's like, I'll take a new King Kong film, because, hello, monster god, right? In both phrases, in both senses of that phrase. So if it's okay that there's connective tissue, because the filmmakers had the connective tissue. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Everything exists in context. Context is king. As we know who says that. I don't want to trigger anybody by talking about things that are not monsters. But so I'm okay with all those connections, and frankly, they're fascinating when you see the influences back and forth. And it's like, okay, well, you can see the connections here to Kong, but you can also see how other films built on that. Like, you can see Jurassic Park's a great example. Without the visual vocabulary of the Godzilla series, does Jurassic Park look the same way? Even if you say Crichton writes the book and it sells 1 billion copies and they turn it into a movie and it's directed by Steven Spielberg, if Spielberg is not able to look at what's done in Godzilla and similar Daikaiju films, does Jurassic Park look the way it does? If Jurassic Park looks different, is it as successful? Right? If Jurassic Park's not as successful, is there a franchise where now in 2022 we have the 6th Jurassic Park movie coming out?
Considering there was only ever supposed to be one, and then there was a second book, and like, okay, Lost World will be the end of this.
Yeah.
Well, we can make a third one. Like, well, you're making money hand over fist.
Right. And you know what it all comes back to? It's that, and it cracks me up every time. So in Jurassic World, when we see that there's an attraction where everybody is paddling down the river, and all the herbivores are all on the coast, or on the not the coast, on the shoreline, I should say, eating just eating the vegetation. When we saw Jurassic World in the theater, my wife elbows me and says, "Why don't you just do this? Don't make the ones that eat people. Like, this looks wonderful." And I said, I know. And to the credit, that's like the storyline of Jurassic World, right? That, you have to keep making something bigger and badder. But in any event,
doesn't Jeff Goldblum say something like, well, why did you make? Oh no, Sam Neill says it in the original. Well, why did you make this? Well, of course we had to make a T-Rex. Of course, like, why'd you Raptors? Oh, well,
Raptors is the one that doesn't work for me, because Jurassic Park made the Velociraptor popular. Yeah. So it's like, I get, okay, T-Rex, the most popular dinosaur in history. Okay. I'm willing to buy that. It's like no one had heard of Deinonychus or Velociraptor except people that really liked dinosaurs or people that had Dino Riders toys really knew who that was before that book. Just saying.
It's going to be Dino Riders in there. Well, I mean, even if you would watch the special on dinosaurs, which is on YouTube, I found the other day. I love that special about dinosaurs on CBS, remember?
Yes.
And that was where we first learned about the egg stealers.
Yes.
And that's what hunted the egg stealers, quote unquote. I'm like, oh, Struthiomimus. Oh, what's this? Is that a raptor? Is that Deinonychus? Like, I was like, because I was a nerd back then and had a bucket of dinosaurs. Because like every other boy in the 80s,
everybody had a bucket of dinosaurs.
Brought the bucket of dinosaurs in the car with us to the beach in Florida, where there's video of me putting my dinosaurs playing on the beach at Disney.
Yes,
because dinosaurs were cool. Why? Because we grew up in a house where King Kong and Godzilla existed, and I felt so bad for my friends who didn't know that, because when we go to Museum of Natural History and they're like, "Oh, look at these bones," I'm like, "That's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and that's a Brachiosaurus, and that's an Allosaurus," you know. And even if the heads were on the wrong things for a while,
well, you know, you do the best with what you got, right? All right. So our synopsis. You are talking about Terror of Mechagodzilla, 1975. Okay. Our synopsis is just like that version of the Scarlet Letter with Demi Moore, liberally adapted from Wikipedia and Wikizilla. I love that. And the thing is, my wife, again, I'm on a tangent. She loves that credit. When she saw that credit, she literally said she just like burst out laughing the first time she watched that Scarlet Letter. It's like liberally adapted. It's either liberally or loosely adapted.
Yeah.
It's like when you have to put that suggestion on there.
Yeah.
That's a CYA situation. That's like remember when Universal
based on real events. It's like says
based on real events. Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on real events because Ed Gein was a person. This has nothing to do with Ed Gein. So.
Gein was a thing. The one I like too in the Universal Invisible Man series.
Yes.
The first several are adapted from H.G. Wells, and then some of the later ones are based on H.G. Wells. Invisible Agent, which is the one that's set during World War II.
Yeah.
Suggested by.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, the Universal lawyers, they got their money that day. So it's like, why don't we put suggested by on it, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So, following the events of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Interpol agents search for Mechagodzilla's remains at the bottom of the Okinawan Sea in hopes of gathering information on the robot's creators, the black hole aliens, also known in some forms as the Simians. However, their submarine, Akatsuki, is attacked by a giant aquatic dinosaur called Titanosaurus, and the crew vanishes. So, during the opening credits, we get the recap of the fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla from the previous film, completely removing King Caesar from the narrative, which I always, again, when you'd hear about, Godzilla fought Mechagodzilla with King Caesar, I'm like, no, we didn't. We see it at the beginning. He fights him by himself because they cut around King Caesar.
Isn't King Caesar in one of the scenes where he's holding him?
No, they don't use the bit. They don't use that scene where Godzilla holds him and King Caesar crashes into him. There might be a fleeting glimpse of him, but he's not in there.
A little clip. He's in one of the little clips. It's because I remember saying, "Oh, look! They didn't show the whole fight." Yeah, he's in a little tiny piece, but it's not enough where you'd actually know it's him.
Right.
It's just.
But I always liked that because again, we had easy access to Terror of Mechagodzilla, but not the other one. So at least you got a little bit of it, like Mechagodzilla spinning his head around and all that, and firing all the arsenal at when all the weapons are firing at once. Those are just classics. The submarine search, I really like that bit. It's that submarine, the Akatsuki. It looks pretty nice. It moves real nice because submarines are not like helicopters. They don't have like rotors or stuff, so they can move nice and smooth. I think it's a cool scene. And then we get right at the front, we get Titanosaurus, which is pretty cool because he actually uses his tail to create a water spout underwater, and that is actually featured on the poster, which is the only time he does it is underwater, because obviously you can't create a water spout on land. But I think that is not a really nice use of his powers. He could just tackle it, and he does grab the sub and sink it, But actually, tossing the submarine around by creating a water spout, I thought was a really clever move here.
Have we ever seen another kaiju that can do that? Create
not in the Godzilla series, because the aquatic monsters, it's like Ibra doesn't have an ability to do that. I'm sure there's probably some ultra monster that's done that, but the other like Owadako, he's a big octopus. Gyra obviously lived in the water but didn't have that.
Yeah, because I was trying to think if there was even anything in the Gamera series where they used like that kind of like made like a whirlpool or like a use their tail to whip around, and I didn't think of any. I mean,
no,
I have hit my head into things over the years, but I don't remember to say it. So you're prone to having blackouts.
But so right up front we get the new character, right? We get Titanosaurus, and Titanosaurus has such a cool look. The story goes that Terayoshi Nakano thought that it was believed that dinosaurs would have bright colors, so that's why he has the mottled red and yellow orange skin and the warts and all that. He just looks so visually interesting, when you've got a fairly one-toned Godzilla, a fairly one-toned Mechagodzilla. Now you have this character that is so bright and so unique looking.
Yeah, and I think too, if you remember, even King Caesar. I mean, he could have been, duller, but they had him even a little more sheen to him. So he kind of stood out being different than Godzilla and different than Mechagodzilla. And then even going back to like Hydra, excuse me.
Yes.
Hydra is black, quote unquote, but he's not black. He's oil. He's got color and movement, and it looks like it's flowing. This is moving away from the stock and standard the look of what the creatures look like. It was different. It was interesting. I mean, I have a hard time believing that anyone would see Titanosaurus and go, like you're like, wow, that thing looks cool. Like, that's why he's one of my absolute favorite monsters of all time, because he just looks so cool, kind of thing. His colors are different. His tail looks different. I mean, you could have just had this be basically a Godzilla getting out of the water kind of thing, because but they made it look different.
Yeah, absolutely. Interpol launches an investigation into the incident, and with the help of marine biologist Akira Ichinose, they trace Titanosaurus to a reclusive, mad scientist named Shinzo Mafune, who was driven from the scientific community for his wild theories about controlling animals, as well as a claim that he had discovered a living dinosaur, which was Titanosaurus. Real quick, when they're doing the investigation, they recover the black box from Akatsuki, and they play it back, and the panicked broadcast is the guy yelling, "It's a dinosaur! It's a dinosaur!" Even in the dub, he says, "It's a dinosaur, a giant dinosaur." And so evidently the idea here, and the reason why Takayama has other characters always refer to Titanosaurus as a dinosaur, was to further play up the idea, as we'll see, that it's not him being an aggressive monster. He is a peaceful dinosaur that is being controlled and turned into a weapon by Mafune. And I'll be honest, as a kid, I never got that. I always thought it was strange. Like, it's a dinosaur. It's like, Godzilla exists. You've seen monsters. Why are you so taken aback? But it's like, watching it now, I totally get it, and it clicks a lot more now, especially watching the uncut one. It's like, yes, Titanosaurus left to his own devices would not be a violent creature. He would be a peaceful creature. And so that I do like that. And again, I always thought maybe that was an oddity about the dub, but it's right there in the Japanese as well.
So it's so funny because he's driven out because he's, he says he discovered a dinosaur and he can control animals and stuff. They're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
This is a world where Godzilla exists. Like, I don't think he's crazy, guys. If he said he found a dinosaur, I believe him.
Yeah, maybe we should listen to this dude,
Yeah. It's, it's like, nah, he can't possibly mean a dinosaur. Do you remember the big green one that was walking around before? Do you remember the one who's kind of reddish brown who flies around? Remember that gold guy? I'm just... I hate
remember the one with all the spikes on his back? You remember that guy? You remember the one with the horn? that could shoot electricity from it that fought Frankenstein. Remember that? You know.
Remember Frankenstein?
Yeah, I know it sounds stupid when we say it out loud, but remember that? Remember when he fought Frankenstein? Remember when Richard Dix came here, tried to take over this town?
We fought Plague. We fought Lumpkin.
He fought Dix.
I remember that. Remember Richard Dix came in here and tried to take over this town. Oh my God! Oh, Blazing Saddles, a movie that was shown on TV in a 4-minute time slot.
Yep. Fit it in a commercial break for another movie. I do love with Mifune's origin where it's in the still photos and it's in sepia. It's so like 1954, isn't it? It looks like that could have been Serizawa's origin. You know. Yeah. The way that it's shot, and it's perfect that that's Honda doing that, and that's a way to show this is the past. This is 20 years ago, you know. That's in still photos and in sepia tone. I really do like that, and you feel for Mifune, or because it's like, you know, nobody wants to be called crazy or run out of this you know your field, but you know at the same time it's like dude does take it a bit far, but again that's why he's a mad scientist, right? You know.
Yeah, he It also allows you, man, if you only had a month to shoot all this stuff, it's a lot quicker to shoot like,
This is true.
So,
yeah. So while Ichinose and Interpol agent Murakoshi are visiting the scientist's old home, they meet Mifune's daughter, Katsura, who claims that her father is dead and that she burned his notes about Titanosaurus at his request. So we get introduced to Katsura, and you can kind of see that, you know, hey, here are the two leads that are around the same age. Let's put them together early on. Maybe they'll have some scenes together. And I do like Ichinose and Katsura together. You know, you do get the feeling that, I mean, we know Katsura's lying. We know it almost immediately that she's lying, but you get the feeling that she's lying anyway, even before you know it.
Right.
But Ichinose, you know, he's good guy Ichinose, right? So he's gonna think the best of her, and this comes up later in the film too, that he assumes it's because she doesn't want to talk about the past or dig up painful memories. Not that, you know, she's literally, you know, lying about her father being dead. But I do like that, and again, I think having it's interesting because and we've talked about this before, that sometimes the best roles for women in Godzilla films specifically, and in Toho science fiction films in general, are ones that are like aliens or villains, because they don't have to fit into the societal norms that were expected of, you know, air quotes up to the mic, heroic female characters, right?
Yep.
And so we get that here with Katsura, but she's not like, you know, Miss Namikawa from Monster Zero. She's not a straight up evil character, because she's torn. She really presents as a very human character that we really feel for in this, and we can understand her devotion to her father. We can understand her feelings that she's torn with her feelings with Ichinose. And again, I don't want to sound cliched, but having, you know, Yukiko Takayama write this character, she really comes off as an authentic female.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, whereas in Western films, by this time you started having female characters that were, I don't want to say playing against type, but were in, you know, they did whatever they wanted to, kind of thing.
They had agency.
Yeah, right. In the Japanese film, in the Eastern films especially, there was, you know, characters had to stay within certain roles. It sounds horrible and it sounds super dated for sure, but that's just the way it was.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be fair, this is dated. This is, I mean, we're talking 1975, so we're talking 47 years ago as we're recording this. That was a long time ago. I mean, we did see some of this counterculture. Nathan and I talked about this with the character of Tomoko in Godzilla vs. Gigan, that she's the action hero. That, you know, a hero is kind of a wimp, but his girlfriend, you know, literally is kicking people and throwing people out of doors and stuff. Yep. So a little bit different context, you know.
But I'm saying the other thing is too, when you think about it, this is what, 75 to this. So and I hate to keep moving on. Ripley doesn't exist yet. Sarah Connor doesn't exist yet. Literally the you know, heroine that's going to like. Again, if you haven't seen Alien or Aliens, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Like if like Ripley became like an archetype of like what women in movies could be. Like she was Rambo, she was Schwarzenegger, she was whatever.
Right.
She on that level. Sarah Connor's not from the original Terminator, but like when we get to Terminator 2, became like
the T2.
Oh
or
my
even
God.
by the time you get to the last real Terminator, she's right there.
Yeah. Well, she had to do a lot of her character had to do a lot of growing up in that movie, and it's horrible to say because she's a grown adult in there. But let's be honest, she went from okay to like watching her like literally. I mean, Kyle getting killed again. If you haven't seen Terminator, the other thing, and like literally fighting for her life, and you feel in that movie. You like. I know people make you can't cry in movies. Like it's that movie to me still to this day. I know what's going to happen, and you're like, man, I just don't want Reese to die. Spoiler, right? Kind of thing, right? It's okay. He comes back, but like the whole thing is, that's what I'm saying. You didn't have those roles in the 70s.
No.
One of the and people don't see this until later when you looked at how it changed. Princess Leia is not like super tough when you first kind of meet her and stuff. She's got rebel plans or whatever, but like when they're trying to break out, Leia takes the gun and starts shooting people. You're like, whoa, like that blew people's minds at the time because women didn't do that in this type of movie.
Right.
In Japanese in movies and Godzilla movies especially, if you're a good guy, you fit certain roles. Right. And it's when those people aren't in those roles, they stand out as being so much more. You're like, that's an interesting character. Right. And not that the others aren't, because they're doing a great job, in acting and doing that. But it's like, whoa, it stands out as being different. And it's the different a lot of times that stands out for good or for bad. But the different stands out.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. So unbeknownst to Ichinose and Murakoshi, the living Mifune is alive and well downstairs, and he is visited by Suda, who is the aide to the alien leader Moogle. And Moogle is leading a project to rebuild the destroyed Mechagodzilla. Suda reveals to Mifune his organization's alien origins and introduces him to Moogle. The two join forces as they have a similar desire to see humanity suffer. The aliens need to destroy the Earth to terraform it as a new home planet, and Mifune has a desire for revenge on those who called him insane. And now with Titanosaurus under their control, using Mifune's control technology, and a rebuilt Mechagodzilla, they have the tools to execute their plan. So we get this unholy alliance, right? And I don't want to get too political, but we have a human collaborator with the aliens. And Suda says that earlier when we see a scene with Suda and Moogle where he says that, we have a human that's useful. He hates his own species. Yeah. And I love that little line because Mifune really does. He's been stewing in his own juices for 20 years and his hatred of humanity. And we later find out that not only did they drive him from his field and call him crazy, but that essentially drove his wife to death. Because she ended up suffering and dying as a ridiculed outcast in poverty because of that, and so he holds so much anger over this. It's like, I can see it. I can totally see him collaborating with the black hole aliens and saying, I want to see them suffer. They want to laugh at me and my Titanosaurus. Laugh now. It's like we say, it's F around and find out, right?
It's funny. It's so much like. It's so much like Fibes in the Bible Doctor Fibes and stuff like that after his wife dies, and we you see it there, and you're like, I mean, again, it's a much different scale and very different film, but you see it there. It's like his entire world was torn apart when his wife dies, and you're like, kind of thing. It's like, all right, you want this now? Okay, well we're gonna bring it, and you better be ready because it's already brought.
It's already been brought.
And the idea of having a human collaborator has been done a million times. I mean, it's even in Peacemaker, for crying out loud. If those who have, most people haven't seen that series. It's in there even too, and you're like, "What? This is crazy!" Like, and again, it's not that it's original to Peacemaker or original even here, because the human collaborator. This goes back even to like the 50s sci-fi movies like interplanet arrows and things like that, where it's like, the aliens there, whatever. It's what do you call it? It's Day the Earth Stood Still.
Right.
Which is, this guy wants to, destroy the Earth, and they want to save the Earth, but different story.
But still, Klaatu does have a human collaborator that's working with him. They just have different ends, I should say. Yeah.
And yet we still, unfortunately, do not get a force that what does he say? If Gort was to, I forgot now. If Gort was going to be, he was a force that could destroy the entire world. Like if he was unchecked. And it's like, part of me wants to see this. It's just like in the mummy's hand, where it's like, if he had all the Tana leaves, he's a force who would never die. Awesome. Give him the Tana leaf. Let's see it.
Last reel. Let's do it. But
I want to see the mummy just tearing everyone apart. So then the mummy can fight it out in Mexico.
Car starts running. He's not dragging his foot anymore. He starts running around. It's like, oh Jesus, this guy's fast now.
I was just saying, that would be Robot versus the Aztec mummy. That's what we would get at the end of the day. Gort versus the mummy's hand versus Kaharis.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's okay. So we go into and we see the rebuilding Mechagodzilla. One of my favorite things right here. We've got, how do we establish scale in a robot? Scaffolding. We have lots of scaffolding and gantries, and we see people with we see the little sparks where guys are obviously welding. So we get to it is a trope that I absolutely love. We've got a giant robot and he's in a base. We've got scaffolding around him so we can see, he's huge. If you need this many levels of scaffolding, he's got to be, hundreds of feet tall.
So I'm just going to throw this out there. As much as I love the cleaned up version, this scene is not good because
you can see the composition very plainly now. Yes,
and I'm like, and again, the people are like, Jay, how can you hate? I'm not saying I hate it. But it used to be blurry enough where you didn't see it, and now you can see it.
That's always the challenge with watching special effects movies when you get into you clean up situations. Like I saw so many complaints. It's like, oh, those Criterions, you can see so many wires now. It's like they were never intended to be shown in this high a resolution.
Even the original film itself was never this hot, this crisp, this sharp. Even if you were watching an original, print of it, it never was that crisp. Yeah. The only thing was that crisp was you were standing in the studio,
right?
Kind of, and you're seeing with your own eyes. And even then, let's be honest, this, the 1080, the cleanup, everything is crystal clear. So that's one of the things that I've heard a lot of people kind of, not to say take digs, but like that's the bad mouthing of like old special effects and B movies and whatever. And I can see this. I can yep.
We know it.
It's just one of those things though, because I know it's I kind of, again, I'd never seen this version of the movie. I've never seen this movie cleaned up this well, and it kind of was like, whoa, okay, that's kind of noticeable. It's you can see some of it when you watch the original King Kong in the scenes where there's like clearly there on a stage and or in front of a screen, kind of thing, and because you're like, wow, they look really good. Why is that still kind of blurry? Because it's still shot on a screen, kind of thing. So it's still but it's still they do a great job of scaffolding there. Clearly, scaffolding. People have all seen scaffolding in real life, so they can imagine how big that must be. It clearly inspired Jerry Jarrett to make wrestling matches on scaffolds. Kind of thing. What happened? Little Memphis in there. I think it's a good point though, and I think when you see people do models of not say Gundams, but like things. Yeah, I guess you can use Gundam.
Gundams, absolutely. Anything that we would call a real robot as opposed to a super robot. Yeah.
Right. They'll often have them like building like our buddy John Vanover did a model, and he's building, like he said it was just because he had to build stairways and scaffolds, and like it's about them like fixing this robot. It was in Bay, and I'm like, of course, but we get that same thing even in movies like Pacific Rim.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We see that in Pacific Rim. We see them in the Bay at the Shatterdome, and we can immediately see the scale because we can see, they've got the rigs up there so they can work on the Jaegers. So that's how big they are then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that is obviously I understand what, and it's not new to this movie certainly, but
No.
I'm saying it's one of those things that allows us to take a miniature and get scale, even going back into the 40s with rockets taking off. Like, well, look how big all the things around that rocket. You know how it must be huge.
Yeah.
Just look how many steers it takes to get there. Look how many whatever kind of thing. Your mind
Right.
fills in. So
And it's such, and again, it's I mentioned it. You mentioned Gundam. It's such a real robot thing. Because a super robots work because they work, because they're super robots, like Raideen or Mazinger or the Getter Robo or stuff like that. They work because Gigantor, Daitetsujin, they're superheroes that are robots. A real robot's a machine, and that's the Mechagodzilla, right? It's a real robot. It is controlled. It has weapons. It's not a magical machine. It is a machine that is programmed. And so to have it in there, again, we're right around the time of Gundam and the idea of real robots. So
Yep.
I'm all on board with that.
Yep.
Good stuff. So construction is completed on at the very creatively named Akatsuki 2, and the investigation of what happened to the first sub continues. Ichinose asks Katsura to join them, but she pleads with him not to launch the sub. Ichinose mistakes her pleas for a desire not to dig up the past and goes on the mission. Suda orders Katsura to control Titanosaurus to attack the sub. The attack goes well until, in their retreat, the sub blasts Titanosaurus with sonar, stunning him. Having determined that Titanosaurus is weak to supersonic frequencies, Interpol commissions a weapon to be created to use against Titanosaurus. So again, we see more scenes of Katsura and Ichinose. Katsura gets to really a great job by Tomoko Ai to really emote and plead with Ichinose not to go on the mission. And again, good guy Ichinose is like, no, it's okay. You'll be proud of your father when we're done. It's we're not trying to we're trying to determine, because Ichinose says that he believes him and that it's all real and all that. But she's a stone cold fox. She's trying to get him not to go because she knows that if you guys keep digging around, we're gonna have to kill you. Yeah. And she doesn't want to do that.
It's like, how can I tell you that you're gonna get killed without telling you you're gonna get killed?
It's like a Twitter challenge. It's like, okay, tell someone that you're gonna die without telling them they're gonna die. Don't know why Casey Kasem was the one doing that Twitter challenge, but
this one goes out to you.
Yeah. Assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill.
Oh my gosh.
But then the whole bit with Suda, I love that. He just yells at her. He goes, "Remember what lies beneath your flesh and who brought you back to life." It's like, dude, harsh,
Yeah. Well, he's like, you're not a real person. What was that? I'm trying to remember where it's like, you can't kill all these things. Well, they're robots. We can smash them up. That's like from what?
That's from Batman. That's from Batman animated.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, they're robots. You can do whatever you want to them." Oh, we can.
Yeah. So it's like she's a robot, so she can get yelled at. I mean, she's a cyborg or whatever, how we would call it. But it's like, she's not even a real person anymore. She was dead. Yeah. I brought you back from the dead. Not with the shaved head though.
Yeah.
Getting to our Everlast. Just want to throw this in real quick. I don't know. I mean, it's people might have noticed this. Titanosaurus, as much as he again loved the bright colors and everything else, he's a throwback to like the 50s and 60s, if you think about it, because he's a dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
But like he's also modern and into the 70s there for the way he acts and whatever kind of thing, and the idea of him being controlled and not just his own thing. But it's like, it wasn't a smog monster. It's not a cosmic monster. It's not it's not a jaguar, kind of thing. It's it's a kind of a throwback, and I think that's one of the things they would do too, where you can take something that's old and make it new again by making it kind of turning it, not like turning on its ear, but like stepping it up where it is.
Those old monsters that fought with tooth and claw, they're still valid. Just because we haven't had one, that we've had Hedra and Gigan and Megalon and Mechagodzilla, that we've had these much more outlandish monsters. That doesn't mean that an Earth monster like Titanosaurus can't still work. And I think it's a good point. It's like he totally works. He absolutely would have fit in 1965 as he does in 1975 because there's value to that type of monster and it's still valid.
Yeah. I just think it's just a nice nod to the other Godzilla, like to the what came before.
Yes.
But yet still keeping it making sense in this story, what's going on. So
yeah.
I just want to throw this in real quick.
Sure.
In the original script treatment, right? And then again, things changed. Titanosaurus was actually supposed to be two smaller creatures called Titans.
Yes.
Which would fuse together to make one single monster.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, do we think that this idea was maybe kind of like someone had remembered this later and then down the road used this? You know what I'm saying? In Destroyer. Right?
Yeah.
Destroyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Destroyer is the aggregate form that combines them all together. The thing is that from what I've read, that it's described as the two Titans, one's a male, one's a female, and when they become enraged, they wreathe their necks together and twist their necks together, and this somehow leads them to being fused. And the treatment doesn't really go into detail of how this works.
Right.
So it's like okay, is it a physical thing? Is it like a transmorgification? And we just don't know because it was never developed because that was seen as way too expensive to do.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. So we didn't do it. But the other thing, but no, absolutely the idea of monsters, this isn't even my final form type of situation. Mm-hmm. I could totally see that. And I could see that being pulled out and used because that's not really used. We had seen monsters getting killed and Godzilla absorbing their energy.
Yep.
That happens with Rodan in Godzilla in Mechagodzilla 93. But no, the idea of the monsters fusing together like that absolutely makes me think of Destoroyah. And we even got that with the Dorats in King Ghidorah. Mm-hmm. The three Dorats are fused together into King Ghidorah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm wondering, because those are all, I mean, that's years and years later.
Right.
If like this idea here, have we seen this before? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to remember.
No,
where,
I can't think of one. Yeah.
No, not where it's that. I mean, obviously you have, like if you looked even into the Western movies, I can't think of a movie where there's two separate things that fuse together to make one creature. I mean, yes, the skeletons are the from the teeth of the Hydra, but it's nothing but that's two separate monsters. Like, right. I'm trying to think that this would have been. And I understand the confines of the shooting time and the money and everything, but remember we just said like it's kind of a throwback monster because it's an Earth monster. But could you imagine if you had two Earth monsters, quote unquote Titans, right, who then merged into this thing? It would have been completely ahead of its time,
right?
Kind of thing.
The only monster that immediately springs to mind from around this time is the Ultra Monster Tyrant. So Tyrant is from Ultraman Taro, and I'm trying to remember, that was 72, 73, somewhere around there. Okay. And Tyrant he's made up of the spirits of several other Ultra monsters. Mm-hmm. So if you look at Tyrant, he goes, okay, his chest looks like one monster, his legs look like another, his head looks... So he is like a combination of other monsters. He's still a little bit different because the idea is that they resurrected the spirits of these monsters and combined it into like a chimera. Right. But that was around that time. So that's about the only one I can think of. But that's still a little different than what we're talking about. That's not in one story, Yeah.
So. When I saw that, I said, and again, it's in the early treatments, it never was fleshed out. But I thought like that would have been a way to make Titanosaurus really stand apart.
Yes.
Because I think the problem is that, well, the real problem is because this was the last movie made and then 9 years went by. Titanosaurus was not beloved by fans. I mean, I love him, but he's not beloved by fans, or to the point where Titanosaurus is not even like a fig there are. I mean, I know there's one made somewhere, but like
there's not a ton of Titanosaurus merchandise out there.
Yeah, in any way, shape, or form. Yes. and it's so funny because, Titanosaurus only appears in one movie, but like, Mechanicon only appears in one movie, and Mechanicon is loved because of Kong, kind of thing.
I mean, come on. But even like King Caesar, King Caesar had only appeared in one film for decades before he comes back in Final Wars, and we got King Caesar in the U.S. Bandai vinyl line. My Bandai or my vinyl King Caesar is from the U.S. So it's like, why couldn't we have gotten Titanosaurus? And it's like, well, again, because obviously there was more value to King Caesar than Titanosaurus from Bandai's standpoint.
Yeah, and Titanosaurus doesn't even reappear in Final Wars.
Yeah, he appears as stock footage at the beginning, and then the kid has a toy. The kid that's playing with that's fighting with the toys with chocolate all over his face.
Yep.
But I'm right there with you. And it's funny you talking about like King Ghidorah and them. We do get the scene where it's a little bit after this, where Katsura says to Dr. Mifune, it's like, oh, so you're okay with Titanosaurus being a killer?
Yeah.
Like all these other monsters. And now she says Rodan, King Ghidorah, and Manda.
Yeah.
Why is Manda in there? The only thing I can think is that maybe Takayama really liked Atragon.
Yeah.
And so that's why she put Manda in there. But it's like, you had other monsters you could have put.
Yep.
Why Manda of all the monsters? Now I say that, and I know my oldest daughter would love that because she loves Manda. So it's like, oh, Manda's there. It's like he's in one little box for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's a point is well made. It's like, okay, so you want vengeance so much, you're okay with your creation going down in history as a killer.
Mm-hmm.
And Mifune's he's like, yes, because it's like they deserve it.
Yeah.
And it's like anytime your argument is they deserve it. Maybe you need to take a step back there, Chucklehead.
It's kind of funny. It's a concept that I think nowadays we much more kind of look at, and they explore it in season 3 of The Boys and stuff like that. Is that like a person who's controlling something that whatever you're controlling, whether it's a superhero or a dinosaur or whatever, that becomes they say, I'm not going to be your gun. Like, I'm not going to be your weapon. And that's what Titanosaurus is. He's not literally a gun,
but he's a monster of mass destruction.
Yeah. That's what Mechagodzilla is. Mechagodzilla is built to be that. But Titanosaurus is a living, quote unquote, breathing, animal that's being used that way. It's not an actual weapon that's being built. It's, taking something and weaponizing it. It is such an idea that, again, I'm not saying it's unique to this film, but it's such an idea that we didn't see a lot of.
Right.
In the Godzilla series, we don't see a lot of weaponizing. The
aliens do it.
The aliens do it. I'm trying to remember. Right. It's in Monster Zero, right?
Yeah, well, it's in Monster Zero. It's in Godzilla vs. Gigan. It's in Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's in Destroy All Monsters. So the aliens do it, and then we count on the Earth monsters to defend us.
Right.
We don't weaponize our monsters the same way that the aliens do. Whereas here, again, this is a human doing this and doing it. And even when it's the only person in this world that he cares about tells him this, he's like, yes. He hears her, he understands, and still wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's how dedicated he is to his vengeance.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's one of those things like, cause it's Monster. I think it's Monster Zero, where the aliens have control of Godzilla and Rodan, and then we have to, then they knock them out of the sky, and then Godzilla and Rodan are like, what?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's like, well, it wasn't me, kind of thing. It wasn't me.
Because they're also like, how did I get back here? I was on Planet X.
It's like,
now
it wasn't
back
me
on Earth again.
It's like they're like Davey Boy Smith when Shawn Michaels gets beat up. I wasn't even there. It was Owen. Anyway, so
got jumped by 12 cheerleaders outside a bar in Buffalo, but
Syracuse, get it right.
Syracuse.
But I'm saying is it's one of those things where you see like the aliens will weaponize things, but have we ever had a human do it?
No. The closest we had was the humans went to, I shouldn't say the humans. The Japanese went to Infant Island to ask the islanders to get Mothra to help.
Right.
But even then, that's asking the favor of a monster god. That's not controlling something and turn it into a weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes this stand out here.
Oh yeah.
Titanosaurus is weaponized, and it's like, you know, the Titanosaurus doesn't have laser beams it can shoot or missiles or anything, but it, like, it would never have come out of the ocean. It never would have attacked Godzilla. It never would have attacked anything. Like, it wasn't going to do any of these things unless they controlled it.
Unless they provoked it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we'll see very shortly that there's another innocent character that is weaponized as part of this desire for this. And actually, it's not even for the desire for revenge. That is weaponized because, well, you're a human. What difference does it make? You're a tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see that in short order here. So after the failed attack by Titanosaurus, Katsura contacts Ichinose to gain intelligence on Interpol's actions. Complicating matters, Ichinose begins to fall in love with Katsura and unwittingly gives her Interpol's information on the aliens, Mechagodzilla, and Titanosaurus because he just can't shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Through flashback, Katsura is revealed to be a cyborg, having undergone cybernetic surgery after she was nearly killed during one of her father's experiments as a child. So again, right now she's operating in that kind of weird gray space, right? She cares about Ichinose, but she also knows I need to get this information out of him, and he's, pretty girl, just keeps talking, right?
Yeah.
Just going on and on about it. And then we see her the flashback of her being mortally wounded in the experiment when she gets, I'm guessing she's got like some ungrounded wire or something because she's electrocuted by the control board as soon as Mifune throws or completes the circuit. And I do love that is still that is still Tomoko Ai. But she is dressed like she's younger. So she's wearing like a polka dot shirt and like a skirt. So she's trying to dress like she's a schoolgirl, I guess, or maybe a teenager. But it's still her. It's still the same actress, right? So we just dress her a little bit like a Lolita. It's Japan. It'll be okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're good. Keep going.
No, so we get to see that she's a cyborg. So what Suda referred to earlier is played out, that she is a cyborg, and that's how they earned or helped to win Mifune's loyalty was by saving Katsura's life. And so this, of course, begs the question: well, did they sabotage the device so that they'd have this opportunity?
Yeah. Right. That's what I was thinking. It's like it's very convenient that she gets electrified. And it's very convenient that they're able to save her.
That they're right there to do it, too.
Yep.
In surgical scrubs, ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So convenient.
Wasn't that convenient?
And so this is we're at the scene, I think, where so we talked about this being the uncut breaks. We're at that part, right? That's
later on, the uncut portion of this. Yeah.
This
one we see they're in the operating theater, but we don't see anything of Katsura.
Right. I'm ahead of myself. Sorry, I'm wrong.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, is this where it's supposed to be? And it's like, no. But
No.
So an impatient Mifune, wanting to demonstrate that he is not merely a tool of the aliens, releases Titanosaurus on Yokosuka without the aliens' permission. Titanosaurus easily dispatches the JSDF forces, while Interpol discovers that their supersonic wave oscillator weapon has been sabotaged. You say sabotage, I say sabotage. However, Godzilla arrives and the two monsters clash. Katsura and her butler are pursued by Interpol, and Katsura ends up being shot and falling off a cliff. Mifune calls off Titanosaurus' attack, and the monster promptly and immediately retreats out back to sea. So now things have gotten real. We're about halfway through the film. The Titanosaurus goes out and starts destroying the city, starts destroying JSDF forces, jumps up and smashes a couple of planes out of the air. We get the line here that this is the line that I love in the dub that hits a little bit different in the original, but I really like. It's where Mughal and Suda are talking, and Mughal says that it's okay that Mifune sent out Titanosaurus and that they're tracking that Godzilla is coming. They say because Titanosaurus will be killed and Godzilla badly hurt, and then nothing will be able to stop us. So in the original, they say even if Titanosaurus loses, Godzilla will then be no match for Mechagodzilla. The certainty with which he says that Godzilla will kill Titanosaurus, but the fight will take enough out of him that Mechagodzilla will be easily kill him, just goes along with the fact that they, the black hole aliens view humans as, lower life forms. So they have no problem using us or using anything on Earth to get their own ends. So they're perfectly okay to send Titanosaurus to a meat grinder because it'll hurt Godzilla enough that way Mechagodzilla can kill him.
Yeah,
so I've always liked that line in the dub, Yeah.
They're just expendable assets.
Right.
All it is, to quote Predator. You know.
We'll just throw wave after wave of man at it until
Yeah. you drop 6 of us in a meat grinder. We're not, my men are not expendable. So, but that's true. I mean, but it's true. It's just they look at everything, no matter what it is, everything's expendable to get their end. The ends justify their means, whatever they got to do. Which makes them very much the bad guys in this movie.
Oh yeah, especially in a Japanese movie.
Yeah. So
that sort of that selfish attitude. I mean, we see it in the West also, but there's certain attitudes towards being selfish that play better in the West than in Japan. There's certain things of like not saying being selfish to the point of let's throw our allies at the problem until they're all dead type of thing, but looking out for yourself sometimes does not have the same negative connotation in the West. Sometimes you're saying, well, I'm taking care of myself because I have to take care of myself. That's seen as a positive. That's not always the case in other parts of the world, So 48 minutes in, Godzilla arrives. That is astounding. That's like halfway through the movie before Godzilla arrives. I remember one time, I was working at Clemson, so I was out of college. We were watching Terror of Mechagodzilla, and my friend Duncan, who had never seen it, at about the 30-minute mark says, "Is Godzilla in this movie?" Like, serious. He wasn't even joking. He was serious. It's like, the movie's called Terror of Mechagodzilla. Is Godzilla not in it? I mean, again, there could be a way to write this where Titanosaurus fights Mechagodzilla at the end. I mean, I don't know, again, that would make a lot of money, but I mean, you could certainly tell that story. So yeah, 48 minutes is how long it takes for Godzilla. And he just shows up, He just kind of pops up. He's like, seriously? Like, we're really going to do that. I guess we're doing this, Got that John Cena sort of thing. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness,
So just before this, about 45 minutes or so, 45, 20 something, there's a sign that actually, when you translated, said Dinosaur Countermeasure Book Department.
Yeah.
I forgot about the other one. There was back in about 30 minutes. There's a sign that reads "Nice Reception Room." Like, it literally that's what it translates to, because whatever, I don't know what the Japanese of it is, but that's what it translates to.
That's the nice one, not the okay one. That's the nice one.
The Dinosaur Countermeasure Book Department. As if there's an entire department of like, look, we have so much books. We're going to open our own department on this thing. Mm-hmm. Countermeasures. Oh, funny. Anyway, so Godzilla shows up and he's like, oh, okay. All right, fine. So this is what you want to do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just understand when stuff goes down.
Right.
Just saying.
But I mean, the fight here, again, this is like a throwback sort of fight. This is more like a fight from the 60s with just the two physical fighters in close, Yep. It's more akin to something we might see like King Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Zebra, or Godzilla versus Sea Monster, that type of thing.
Yep.
So, and then Godzilla, some really good suit acting here from Kawai, and also from Nikamoto. When they turn off the controls, Titanosaurus drops his hands and then it's like gets the hell, just like runs away.
Yeah,
doesn't even stop. And Godzilla's like, huh? You can see him; he's kind of confused. It's like we were fighting and now you're running away. It's almost like looks a little disappointed that they're not going to get to finish this.
So Nikamura, there actually are some scenes in here that they said he put the suit on backwards on purpose and walked up so that it made it look unnatural.
Yes.
I don't notice how unnatural, quote unquote, it looked. I mean, I thought it was just him acting. I didn't realize that he'd actually put the suit on backwards for certain scenes to make Titanosaurus's movements seem not so much like a human being walking around.
Yeah.
You know,
I kind of get that feeling in the finale where he's with Mechagodzilla and they both move like machines.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe that's it, because Titanosaurus looks he moves differently then than he does when he's fighting Godzilla.
Yeah. So it just was, and I was reading that and I was like, I don't remember a part where he's moving that much different, but I mean, I guess it must be there because it's not here. You know, here he looks like naturally, you know, like more humanoid.
Right. So Katsura's body is recovered by the aliens and repaired, including the installation of a control module in her chest for Mechagodzilla. Okay, so that let's pause there. This is the part. This is the uncut part right here. So they get her body, and they are performing surgery on her, and we're seeing the full operating table where they've got her chest open, and she Tomoko Ai is wearing a prosthetic to make it look like those are her breasts that are on the screen as the surgeons have her cut open. It is a bit shocking the first time you see that.
Yep. I wasn't expecting it. I forgot all about that. I forgot that was the cut scene. I don't quite understand why they needed that though.
No.
It doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't fit with. Well, let's put aside the fact that like this is part of the, what do they call that? The Champions series. What was the thing for kids?
Yes.
It's a Champion Festival, is whatever kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't understand what the nudity was there for. Now, what movies where they have the naked women in the van, the pictures of the naked.
Oh, that's in Godzilla vs. Megalon. Yeah.
Right. Like that little piece that I get. That's a nudie magazine stuck up.
That's also probably just some guy's actual truck that they're using too. You know.
Exactly. I didn't understand why this was here. Now, if they had shown the bottom of her breast and there was a band across like her nipples and stuff, that would have been super risque for 1975, especially in a Godzilla movie. Would have kind of pushed that. It strikes again. The cleaning it up. You can tell it's not her. You know, not her actual chest. But it shocked me. Like, which is crazy to say. Like, I'm never shocked by anything. I'm like, ooh, that's not supposed to be here. You know, kind of thing. It's like all of a sudden, like you're watching something on the Disney Channel, and all of a sudden someone's dropping F-bombs. You're like, whoa, buddy, this picked up. You know, like this is the weirdest episode of Vampirina I've ever seen.
Vampirina After Dark, but.
But yeah.
So because I'm in the same boat as you. It's like there's other ways to shoot this where we see that they've installed the control module without showing her, you know, essentially the character topless, right? And I
across it. They could have a sheet across it, and
they could have a sheet and just have it like I'm pointing at my sternum up to the mic so everybody can see, and just have the operating sheet there, right? And just that part missing, like a little square rectangle there, so you can see they're reaching into her chest. So there's ways to do it. I've been thinking about this and noodling on this. Again, I almost wonder if this is Takayama saying, really showing that yes, she's a real woman, right? And the aliens are doing this to her. And to drive home the horror of it, you know, and not it's confrontational, right? It's cinema verite. It's like, oh, okay, they're going to turn her into more of a cyborg. Well, here's what that looks like.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it is, like I said, the thing is that I have to keep this in mind that when we watch this, we have to watch the dub that doesn't have this bit in there. You know, I have to go back and get my Henry Saperstein version of this and see how they handle it. Do they just cut around it and show them sticking? Because I've never seen that particular version. I've only ever seen the G-rated one, and this scene's just not in the G-rated one.
Yeah, it's just cut.
Right. It's just cut entirely. So I have to go see how exactly that's done. I'm assuming they just cut around it because you still need to know that the control module's been put into her chest, but I don't know. You know?
Yeah. I want to say it seems kind of out of place a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? thing. So, and honestly, that you could have something covering her breast, and it still be completely makes sense in the scene. So, but
yeah, but that's the choice, you know.
Yeah.
And that is.
It's not like you had like all of a sudden you had an American director taking over, and he's like, stick some breast in here, I'll show you. Like, like there'll be guns and knives, guns. So
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, shout out to the grind vid. I don't think Tomoko I got both halves of that 50 type of situation, you know. So.
Oh, just saying.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah.
So when Ichinose then visits Katsura, he is ambushed by the aliens, but then saved by Murakoshi. Suspicious because of the guns that they use, Murakoshi asks to investigate further, suspecting the assailants are aliens. Meanwhile, Dr. Mifune learns that Katsura's brain tissue is now controlling Mechagodzilla, horrifying the Doctor. And it's from a comment he made that, well, to make Mechagodzilla perfect, it would need living brain tissue to control it. So that's what Moogle did. Because he now has stuck a module inside of her, so now she is the control circuit for Mechagodzilla, you know. And he's horrified by it. It's like, as you should be, dude. It's like, wake up, man. Your daughter's been trying to tell you this all movie, and you're not listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And now it's too late.
Yeah. Now it's and now I need it, you know.
Oh, I need it. That's what I was going. Oh. So
okay. So Murakoshi. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because that's exactly we both went to the exact same idea. That yes, that's right. So
Murakosha and his team investigate, but they are too late. They witness Mechagodzilla being launched, but find the base empty, save for a cell full of prisoners. These are the guys from the first submarine, and they narrowly escape before the base self-destructs. Ichinose returns once again to the Mifune home to investigate, but the aliens this time capture him and force him to watch as Katsura directs Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus in their assault on Tokyo, while Interpol struggles to repair the wave oscillator, and the JSDF proves ineffective against the monsters. So, it's the end game now, you know.
Yep.
So they launch Mechagodzilla, they dispatch Titanosaurus. This is what I was saying. You see both of them kind of behaving like machines because they're both being controlled remotely by Katsura. And they just lay waste to everything, you know. There is just sequences of just whole things, just rows of buildings being blown up. There's one where we see Mechagodzilla in like the background, and he fires the missiles into the foreground, and everything explodes. It's an amazingly assembled shot where it's like, okay, you're standing like 30 feet away, and I've got the camera here, and then it's going to fire the squibs on the missiles on your fingers, and then everything's going to blow up here like 4 seconds later. There's some really good pyrotechnics in this sequence.
Yep.
That's like I said, that's Nakano's thing. Likes to blow some stuff up. The note I had as far as like Titanosaurus moving like a robot, compare that to the similar scene in Godzilla vs. Gigan, where Gigan, even though he is a cyborg, moves like a normal monster. Right, yeah. He doesn't move like a machine like Mechagodzilla does, or like Titanosaurus does here. He operates on his own free. He has a program, but he still operates kind of on his own volition. Mm-hmm. You know. So as they're trying to repair the weapon, Godzilla arrives again, but is initially outmatched by his foes. Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus overpower Godzilla, eventually burying him in rubble. The tide turns when Interpol uses the repaired wave oscillator, putting Titanosaurus out of the fight. This allows Godzilla to focus on Mechagodzilla, tearing off its head, only to discover it has a secondary head underneath. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So this fight with Godzilla against the two of them, there's some great stuff here. Titanosaurus punts Godzilla through the sky. Like Randy Orton punts him, you know, and he goes flying. And then at one point, Godzilla attacks he tackles him with a Luthez press. Yes. You know, just tackles him right to the ground, and it's like just theses him down. But you know, he's outmatched here. You know, they got the numbers game on him. You know, that type of thing.
So in this scene at the end, near the closer to the end, when Godzilla is revived and he charges at Mechagodzilla, right? And this is when he empties all his weaponry at him at the same time.
Yes.
If you look closely, look for the exploding breakaway rock prop behind Godzilla, behind him.
Yep.
It's the prop from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, where King Zexar hid behind and was blasted with the crossbeam. Right? It's right there.
Yes.
And what happens is, during that fight, Godzilla's suit catches on fire. They left it in the movie.
Yes.
The actual suit catches on fire. And I'm like, poor guy. I was like, yeah.
Yep.
So, just for those, it's much easier to see now than it would have been years ago. I'm just saying, because it's cleaner. So
all I could think was the song, Godzilla's on fire, you know. I mean, that's pretty badass. You know, Godzilla's literally on fire and he's still coming. It's like, dude is pissed.
Yeah.
We get Titanosaurus picks up Godzilla with his mouth.
Yes.
He takes a bite on him and picks him up and slams him down. So once again, we're going to pick up the suit and slam it down with wires because we figured out how to do that good. And I do like also at one point, I think Godzilla actually gorilla presses Titanosaurus over his head.
Yes.
But remember, Daikaiju and Puaresa have nothing to do with each other, you know. So
yeah. People feel that you and I maybe talk about wrestling too much when it talks about, you know, especially in movies with Godzilla, but yet they're using Puaresa moves. What are we supposed to call them?
Right. I mean that's the line in King Kong versus Godzilla when they're wagering on the fight. And one woman yells at Mr. Taco, "It's not a wrestling match," you know.
Right. I mean, what do you want us to say? And he hits him with a maneuver.
Yes.
What maneuver?
What a maneuver!
Yeah.
The other one I like is when Titanosaurus first gets the whammy put on him, and he's like freaking out because he's trying to get the dish off of his neck, and he's flailing around, and Godzilla comes up out of the earth. And Mechagodzilla is about to fire on him, and the JSDF jets attack. And you get the scene where Godzilla's charging at Mechagodzilla. He just, on his way, just shoulder blocks Titanosaurus and wipes him out. It's like he hits him with the pounce, and he just goes flying.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Yes, he pounced him, and then kept going. So
the alpha male, you hack, you know. Marcus Corvon, you know.
Oh my God, yeah.
I can't imagine why he didn't get over with that name, but yeah.
Because Monty Brown doesn't work well. You know, his actual name.
Yeah, I know, right? Seriously, can't do that. But no, I mean, and again, like you said, they used the stock footage of Mechagodzilla firing all his weapons. It's so great. I mean, they used it twice in this movie. They used it in the prologue, and they use it now because it's still awesome.
Yeah, it's really
when
cool.
I think of Showa Mechagodzilla, that's what I think of. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, and when he's firing weapons one way and his head's pointing the other, shooting beams, you're like, of course it is. Of course
he's a machine.
He's a machine. He doesn't have to rules.
Right.
One of the things is you'll notice is the when the planes are coming again. I know people are going to say the you can kind of tell the jets are models, this. But at this point in the movie, it's like, you've bought everything up to this point, right? It's like, the thing, that's what you don't believe, kind of thing. It's just because that's been one of the criticisms. One of the things I've read, people are like, I can see that wiring, the jets are clearly on wire. It's like, what did you think they were? You think they were reshooting this? Like, they're not going to reshoot this thing 47 years later. Like, it's going to be the movie. Like,
it's like, guys, we know, it's okay.
Yeah,
I
just wonder sometimes, though, people who are picking apart these movies, like, I get it. Like, nowadays, everyone wants to be right and wants to be, I said first comment, all this, like, all that other, like, all that's this happy horse pucky that, like, really does not matter. I get that. But, like, what is the point of ripping apart, like, making, like, look at this, you can see this. Like, I know I pointed out, like, a couple of the things you can really see now. And I wasn't doing it to make fun of the movie. It just was like, it's astounding to me as I'm now seeing this movie cleaned up for the first time. Right. But I know I know there's wires on there. I know there's wires slamming Godzilla to the ground. I know it's all there. I also know that water doesn't scale.
Right.
I'm not stupid. I know that, right? I tell Dad that all the time. Dad's like, well, I'm like, Dad, water doesn't scale. And he's like, I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're willing to buy the giant tarantula, but you're not willing to buy the water looks this way. Like it was the monolith monsters, right? Like they're not blowing up a dam, Dad. That's not going to be like a real. They're not really blowing up the Hoover Dam, or not the Hoover Dam, but you know what I'm saying, right? I was like, he was like, but the water look. I'm like, it doesn't scale.
Right.
I was like, the monoliths really weren't 50 feet tall. If you haven't seen Monolith Monsters, sorry, there's spoiler alert. You know, man, I gotta just everything I say, just take with a spoiler alert in front of it, right? Thing, because I just blow things up there. Anyway, that's one of the things that people have kind of mentioned, and I'm like, but it's what does it matter? Now, the models, of course, are the stock standard, fighter jet models they use. It's not like they had any special planes in this one.
Yeah, the Saber jets, very very popular Saber jet that was used. It was a stalwart of the Japanese self-defense force for many years, so that's why it was used. Yeah, and again, it's like I said, it's one thing to say, well, now that it's cleaned up, this doesn't look as good. That to me is not a criticism. That is an observation. But to say, oh my God, you can totally see the on wires. It's like, what is that? What have you added to the discussion?
Exactly.
We all knew this. We all know how they're made. Just how does that impact the story?
Right.
It doesn't. How does that impact? I mean, you want to say, well, it took me out of the story. It's like, okay, fine. But I kind of question how deeply you were in if a bad model took you out of the story, dude. And I say dude because it's usually guys making these statements.
Yeah.
As a guy, I feel okay saying that, So.
Yeah. I'm not trying to isolate any young ladies out there who might want to feel they need to make comments on it, but we'll be honest here. Usually it's dudes. You know what I'm saying? And and I'm not saying that where they live per se, or that their mom might walk in their door, or they want hot pockets right now. But those things might also be true.
Well, you see, this is why I moved out, because I totally do not consider the basement part of my parents' house.
I have my own door. I'll walk the dog. Can I just throw this in real quick, because I saw this and I wanted to mention, I forgot. Yes. This was the last film to feature Godzilla with the quote unquote toned down state, the earless 3 toes, and the even row of sharp teeth.
Yes.
Because then we go back to the original look in the 50s, more of a pointed ears, 4 toes, and fangs.
Yes.
Just wanted to throw that out there. Not super important, but it's one of those things. Godzilla, the poster for Godzilla 84, Return of Godzilla, Godzilla 85, what do you want to call it?
Yep.
Literally, he's got fangs.
Oh yeah, he's the bad guy in that one. Absolutely.
And that's what I was going to say. It really shows that, and again, that fang look would stay with him even as Godzilla became.
Yes, all through the Heisei era, back to being more of a hero. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's more of a hero, but he's not really like a good guy.
Right.
Like, he is a tweener, if you ever met one.
He's absolutely a tweener. There's many shades of gray.
Gray. So, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I noticed it here again.
Yeah.
The suits, and we'll talk about the very, very end of the movie, the suit is there. But that's one of the things about Godzilla in general, and this is something that Dad has brought up in the Friday. Well, we're not very deep into Friday the 13th yet, but he brought it up kind of there as well. It changes movie to movie.
Yes.
Kind of thing. But it's like anything where there's multiple, with very rare exception, whoever's doing the design of the creature, even if it's the same person, it's always a little bit different.
Yes.
Right? We even noticed that with the masks in Halloween. Kind of thing. They change drastically sometimes, movie to movie, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But Godzilla's, we notice it so much. The original Gojira is so much different than what we would get even, 10 years later. Kind of like from Godzilla's there and stuff. And you there's some more, I don't want to say consistency, but it's much more consistent in this kind of run of movies. Even though they're not exactly the same, it's more consistent, and then we would get more consistent. We change, but be more consistent into the later movies, the Heisei era.
Yes. Right.
But I think that was on purpose, though. I think the Heisei era or Heisei era, I think they tried to be more consistent, yet they were different. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, compared to even the millennia, like that we call it, what do we call
Yep.
them?
Absolutely. The Millennium ones are, except for the two that are that are a pair, they all kind of go in their own direction, you know.
Yeah, everything looks different. I mean, Godzilla in Godzilla 2000 with the purple and he doesn't even look. He doesn't it's Godzilla. You know it's Godzilla, but you're like, that doesn't look like Godzilla from 75, 65.
Right.
So yeah.
It's the Duck Amuck scenario, right? In Duck Amuck, Daffy, and again, spoilers for Duck Amuck, the animator changes the way Daffy looks, changes the way that Daffy sounds, takes away the image altogether, and you can just hear him. And yet, all throughout this, we know it's Daffy Duck, because Daffy Duck as a character has permanence. We recognize him as a character even when things about him change. It's the same with Godzilla, right?
Mm-hmm.
We recognize Godzilla even when things are different. It's only when he changes so much, like the Amerigoji, that we start to question it. And that was the thing, is like, well, Godzilla's changed so much from 1954. It's like, yes, but this is not quite the same. Yeah. And now I don't have a problem. I didn't really have that much of a problem with the Amerigoji at the time either, to be honest. The way that I always thought about it, it's like, well, what if a Japanese character or Japanese creator did Superman? He would look very different, right? Yep. He still might be recognizable. He might have, a blue suit and a red cape and have an S on his chest, but would he look like Superman, or would he look more like something from the Super Sentai? You know? So it's like, but again, it's there are those character traits that we recognize that keep that permanence, right? So.
Yeah, Zilla's design, I think, again, maybe just my opinion. I think what a lot of people's issue was, he was too thin.
Yeah.
He doesn't bulk. He's so thin, and I understand why they made him like that, but he's so thin, and I think that's what makes it look so much different. I think they would have accepted the head. They would have accepted if he had more bulk. Godzilla's bulky. He's big.
Right.
This guy looked too lean. And again, nothing. I mean, the American Zilla. As if you could cut out some of the human stuff that is just garbage in that movie, it's not a bad film. It's just It's not. The problem was, it's much more akin to the Beast in 20,000 Fathoms than it is Godzilla. And I think that's the problem. But I think people didn't know how to say that because people don't know all the connective tissue there.
Right.
If you had called it the Beast in 20,000 Fathoms, people would have said, "Huh? What?"
Yeah.
You call it Godzilla.
And you got a panic on your hands on the 4th of July.
You knew where I was going. So, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, Godzilla himself can change and he can evolve and the look can be there, but I think there's certain things that have to kind of be there. And I think the difference is, because you've seen, I have the toy, the Zilla toy, which actually you worked and stuff, and it doesn't look like Godzilla.
Right.
It just kind of looks weird compared to what it is. Yeah. But that's the same issue we had. People had that same issue with the new the MonsterVerse Godzilla and stuff.
The legendary, exactly.
Right. And then I'm like, but look at him. He's still like his head's too small. I'm like, that's because his legs are huge. Like he's just but he's still got big legs. He's built like a blank, a brick blank house. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what he should be, because that's what he's got to have that base to him.
Right. Well, and the thing is, and I don't want to get too much in this because spoiler alert: Godzilla 98 it's having its anniversary next year, so it's going to be covered next year on the show. So I'll talk at length about the Amerigoji at that point. But I've said this and I've said this and I've said this, and people don't always seem to listen, and that's okay. I'm used to that. I've got kids. Yeah. I need this job. I got kids, but I could accept the way that Zilla looks. What I had a hard time accepting and buying was his personality. Godzilla's personality didn't shine through for me in that movie, and that's a real problem, because you're right. He's more akin to the Rhedosaurus than he is to Godzilla. And that to me is a legitimate criticism. Saying, "Oh, he looks stupid." It's like, okay, I don't think that adds anything. You can like it, you can not like it, fine. You know, that's personal taste. There's no accounting for taste, right? Whereas the legendary Godzilla, I think that they did a much better job, as we talked about on our road to Godzilla versus Kong, of capturing his personality.
Oh yeah.
You know? And so, you know, good guy, bad guy, tweener, you know, Godzilla has certain things that we recognize as, and we see it in this. Like I said, when he's annoyed that Titanosaurus leaves, it's like, but he's the hero. It's like, yeah, but he still likes to fight, you know?
Yeah. It's like, we didn't finish.
Yeah.
We didn't finish.
You can't leave now.
Yeah. I mean, we see it though a lot, and I think that's one of the main things that I think sets the movies in the 60s and 70s so much apart than, you know, again, depending on what era of Godzilla you grew up on, there's so much character to each of them.
Right.
They are so viewed with character. It goes back to what Ray Harryhausen always believed with his characters. He wanted, you know, the Rhedosaurus is just a dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
But yet it has a look and the way it moves, and it has a character. The Amir has a character. I mean, the Cyclops, good Lord. I mean, it's its own. Yeah. The Cyclops 100% character. It's like, you know, but that's what I'm saying is he imbued these creatures with life, you know, by obviously moving them, you know, in stop motion, but giving character, making them unique.
Giving them a character, yeah.
Right, exactly. That goes back to Willis O'Brien, you know, with the Allosaurus even having a character, and the Allosaurus in the movie. Oh, sorry, spoiler alerts in King Kong. You know, the Allosaurus not there a long time, but Kong himself has so much character.
Right.
Godzilla in Gojira does not have the level of character that he would later have in all the other you know, the films to come afterwards.
Right.
Because Godzilla is a metaphor for so many things.
Right.
That's a college course right there, just on the movie of Gojira. You could do a whole course on that movie.
Right.
But if you think about it, like having him be more of a character, making him made him marketable.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, if you're just a mindless, like, you know, if it was just
if you're
like
just a heavy, if you're just a heavy in a monster movie.
Yeah,
looking past the allegorical aspects. If you're the monster in a movie, yeah, we might be able to sell a toy. But if you're a character who happens to be a monster,
oh yeah,
now we can sell some merch. You know,
and I'll be honest, as much as, you know, I like, you know, we can look at how much Universal, you know, how many different iterations of Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, you know, they sell Godzilla merchandise far exceeds.
Oh yeah.
So for those of you who don't know this, and I'm assuming most of people do, there's a thing called G Fest, which is coming, but thankfully it's coming back this year because it's been out.
Yes. It's right around the corner as we record this. Actually, it's
an entire festival. You know, with 3 days, I think, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
3 days, yeah.
And it's not just Godzilla, but it's Daikaiju. It's Godzilla and Gamera and Ultraman. It's all this thing. It's this Daikaiju world. That's it. There's no Universal Studios weekend, right? There's Monster Bash, and there's different things like Monster Bash is much about, like, but that's about all the old movies. And we're talking about not just 15. You don't know how many Godzilla movies are, 20, whatever Godzilla movies there are, however many Gamera movies, and right. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies from the 20s right through to the end of this, like almost the 70s. Like, that's a lot more movies, and that's not even nearly as big as G Fest. That's how big Godzilla is, the marketability of that stuff. And a lot of that is the character there. And again, his character changes, his look changes, but there are certain things that are true. If you ask a kid, and I don't know if I've ever brought this up on the show. We did it once. My daughter did all about an article about. She had a teacher who said, you know, pick any topic you want and write about whatever kind of thing. And Haley goes, I want to write about how Frankenstein is culturally relevant and whatever. And her teacher goes, why don't you pick a girl topic? And my daughter nearly flipped her lid at her. And she goes, you can pick any topic I want. Why can't it? Frankenstein was written by a woman. You know that, right? It's hard when a 9-year-old says that to an adult and is right, but she did.
Yes.
But what she was talking about was she said, at the beginning, she goes, okay, everyone can hand out piece of paper to everybody. Take your pencil, draw Frankenstein's monster as she was setting up for her presentation. And she goes, okay, don't everyone hang on to it. At the very end, she said, does your Frankenstein have a square head? Does your Frankenstein have bolts in its neck? Is its skin green? And their kids are like, yeah. Did any kid have the exact same picture? No. Did they have similar pictures? Yes. If you said to somebody, draw Godzilla,
Right.
2 of us are going to draw the exact same Godzilla. But will
Right.
we all kind of have the same concept? Of course we would.
Right.
And that's so important to the why is there, you can make an outstanding movie that never turns into a franchise, or you can make an outstanding movie and then they realize how to turn it into something bigger than what it is. Gojira as a movie, the importance of that movie, the allegory it is, the meaning, all that, yes, but they didn't make Gojira again. You know what I'm saying? There
Right.
is a movie that's Gojira a second time because it wouldn't work a second time. You know what I'm saying? Like you had to go into Gigantus the Fire Monster, or
Yes.
Godzilla raids again. I don't know technically what you're
Yeah.
supposed to call it now.
Same movie. Yeah.
Like I don't know what you're supposed to call it now, right?
Yeah.
But you had to keep evolving it, right? If you made the same movie over and over again, you know, without evolving what's there for a quote unquote monster movie, you would have burned out long before you got to 1975. So anyway, let's finish talking about this movie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like
it's all right. You know what happens, man. So Murakoshi and his agents infiltrate the aliens' hideout, and Ichinose frees himself, killing Suda. Katsura, fully engaged with her cybernetic programming, pulls a gun on Ichinose, but is shot in the arm by Murakoshi. In the firefight between the aliens and Interpol, Mifune is mortally wounded when Mughal uses him as a shield, crying out for his daughter as he dies. This rouses Katsura's humanity, and she begs Ichinose to kill her to stop Mechagodzilla. When he is unable to do so, Katsura turns her laser pistol on herself, dying in Ichinose's arms and short-circuiting Mechagodzilla in the process. So this whole scene, this makes so much more sense in this uncut version. Because in the G-rated version, Katsura, the Mechagodzilla shorts out basically after Katsura is shot in the arm, and we don't see what happens to her. And not only that, Mifune is killed off screen in the G-rated one. So it's like it is a jumbled mess, and it never has made a ton of sense. Like you kind of get the idea of what happens, but this really spells it out, and it's much better for it. And we get that great scene to finish the arc with Katsura and Ichinose, where, you know, she knows that you have to kill me because now I'm a weapon. I've been weaponized. I was an innocent girl who's now been turned into a weapon. You have to kill me. And he can't do it. And she has to do it herself. So I'd like to say that I am not in any way, you know, condoning or supporting self-harm or suicide. And you know, if people follow me on Twitter know I regularly post about that. But there is a school of thought that suicide is a form of self-agency, that it is a way to exert your control over your existence. And that's what Katsura does here. And again, that's okay in a fictional setting. We're not talking about real world here. There's no real life scenario that this is akin to. But in this fictional world, this is how Katsura asserts her control over herself and her agency, is that she says, I will not be used as a weapon. That my dad was okay with Titanosaurus being used as a weapon. I am not okay with myself being used as a weapon, and she stops it. And it is really something, again, in a movie that's ostensibly aimed at a young audience. This is some heavy stuff.
Oh yeah. I agree. And I can see why it was cut from every version, you know, kind of thing, you know, especially the G version. The crazy part is that as confusing as it was originally when we saw the other cut, now everything's like, oh my god, yes, of course this makes sense. Like it all makes perfect logical sense, and you're like, see, that's the problem when you're missing things. Like so I said to you, like it's just I feel like this is the first time I've ever seen this movie again. Like I mean, I've seen this movie a lot, but I felt like watching this was like the first time again because I'm like, oh, there's new stuff. Oh, there's new that like, and like yes, a lot of it felt familiar, but then there was something new, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense now, or like oh wow, there's a prosthetic of that lady's breast, kind of thing. Like it was the not just shock value, but like it was like new. There was enough new stuff in the missing 4.5, 6 minutes, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
That now it kind of felt like renewed. Sometimes you watch a movie and the movie's 6 minutes longer, and it's like, okay, there was nothing really here. There are a lot they added back in here. So
yeah, there's a lot of value put in with this. And like I say, Katsura's suicide and all that is her arc. And again, you can definitely see the care that Takayama had for her and Titanosaurus as characters in this. It definitely shines through to the final product.
So the thing is too, there's an old saying, you either die a hero or you live to see yourself turn into a villain.
Yep.
Right. So the problem is, she died and was brought back and was made a villain. But unlike most people, she had a chance to redeem herself.
Yeah.
Again, as Luke said, this is a movie, and neither one of us are condoning or suggesting that suicide is whatever. But in this story arc here, where she is now a cyborg that's controlling a giant mechanical kaiju.
Yes.
This makes sense in her arc to now redeem. It's her redemption.
Yeah.
You see that often in movies of like a flawed character is able to then, not drink the liquor, not do the whatever it is to be the hero. Spoiler alert! It's the end of Independence Day when Quaid says, "Tell my children I love them," and he does the heroic thing because he stops the invasion, and you're like, well, like I've seen that movie. I saw the movie in the theaters with you, Christ, for crying out loud.
Yep, we did.
It still makes me tear up because you're like, he's giving of himself to be, to do that. She did this. Mechagodzilla was not going to lose to Godzilla.
No.
Yeah, so we had to do what we had to do. She had to do what she had to do there. So
yeah. And there is there is also something to be said for going out on your own terms. And again, in a different context, you might say, is like, I decide when I'm done. So it's very powerful. It's very well done. And it makes the end of this film that much more poignant, frankly, to be honest. And like I said, I'm with you. It really seems like you're watching this for the first time when you watch the uncut one. So Godzilla finishes off Mechagodzilla in a blaze of atomic breath, causing the machine to explode. Moogle and the remaining aliens attempt to escape in their UFOs, but Godzilla blows their ships out of the sky with his atomic breath. Finally, Godzilla turns on Titanosaurus, not realizing that he's no longer under the control of anyone, blasting him repeatedly with atomic breath until the dinosaur limply falls back into the sea, his fate unknown. Ichinose, Murakoshi, and the other Interpol agents pay their respects to Katsura, while Godzilla, his work done, returns to the sea. And that is the end of our story. So without Katsura there to control them, Mechagodzilla is just a big pile of metal because he shorts out, and without control, there's nothing much he can do. Godzilla destroys him quite easily, actually. Moogle and his crew get theirs. I always love that they close the loop on that Moogle's able to escape from Interpol, but he still gets his. All the awful things he's done, he gets his. He doesn't get away to come back and try this again. And Titanosaurus, who at this point's like, dude, what's going on? And just is like, yeah, I'm done. I'm out of here, Well,
I want to believe that Titanosaurus, even though he was injured there, does survive and goes on to live a very healthy and productive life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not wanting to like, oh, I'm going back into the water, just got my tail and got some fish, kind of thing.
That's why I want to read that sequel novella, because it does involve Katsura and Titanosaurus. So hopefully it'll explain what happens in the ensuing 100 years.
Yeah. Obviously, at the end of the movie here, the suit used was a promotional suit, which has less movement.
So this suit should look familiar.
Yeah.
This is the fake Godzilla suit from the last movie. Why this one was pressed into service? I don't know. I've heard different things. I've heard that because it was going to go in the water, that they didn't want to get the main suit, which had been used for 3 films now, was not going to react well to the water.
Right.
I've heard that this was shot very quickly, and they just used the other suit because it was available. I've heard different things. I don't know that I've seen a definitive reason for that, but it always is kind of just out of left field. It's like, hey, it's like, is it another Mechagodzilla? Do they have the fake suit on again? It's like, oh wait, no, it's just.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. In Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, I always love that scene where he first reveals a little bit of the metal, and it's like, like you can just feel the audience go, oh, and Godzilla's like, oh no,
yeah,
I'm gonna burn that off of you, buddy.
Yeah,
and then the reveal of like, well, we've had this discussion before. King Ghidorah is like the biggest bad in whatever, but Mechagodzilla is like number 2.
Yeah, like he's like it's on now, because they do that whole Fukuda does that whole thing showing all the control surfaces and everything. It's like it's a robot, all right,
Yeah.
Amusingly, that apparently in the early draft that still featured the 2 Titans, there was a scene where Mechagodzilla, wearing the fake Godzilla suit, joins the 2 Titans as they attack Tokyo.
Yeah.
But again, obviously that did not come to fruition.
Yeah. This is also, I just want to throw this out there. This was only one of 2 live-action Godzilla films to have less than 1 million admissions in Japan.
Yes.
And it stands as the least attended film of the original series.
Yeah, it is also financially the least successful film of the entire series, I believe, which is that's harsh, We think about, like, I think as fans we romanticize this film a little bit. So, it was a big blow off to end the Showa series. Look, Honda came back and Ifukube came back, but it's like, no, it was kind of went out with a whimper,
So the problem is, and this is I think why we think that, the popularity rose with Godzilla fandom in the United States.
Yes.
Rather than Japan. This is a movie that, because it was on so much.
Right.
Like, it was still readily available. This becomes one of, like, a lot of people, this is one of their favorite movies. Even if they don't like Titanosaurus, they love this movie because it was one they saw a bunch. And it's got Mechagodzilla, it's cool, it's whatever. But this is where Mechagodzilla from. A lot of people do.
A lot of people do. This is, and we talked about that. A lot of people, this is the Mechagodzilla movie, Yep.
And I think that's why, but I think because we are in the West, namely America, this movie is much more popular here than it was in Japan, which I think is kind of, I don't want to say weird, but it's like, isn't it kind of like telling though, right? Like, we get it like, wow, it's pretty cool. They brought these guys, and everyone, but in reality, it's like, this thing was the dog.
Right.
I mean, someone has to be the dog. Someone had to be the bottom, right?
Right.
Kind of think of this thing. And to be honest, a lot of people probably believe it's Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, although that movie's really good if you give it a chance.
Yeah.
Saying this, but a lot of people look at that movie as being and I'm using air quotes to the mic, a joke.
Yeah.
But because it's not like normal. These are, you can hear the sarcasm and the quotes in my voice. But it's true. I mean, this movie though financially was the bottom, and this is what they were like. And let's be honest, with the price of oil going up and all that stuff, isn't it so crazy? We're still talking about the same stuff today.
Same stuff,
right? That they went onto hiatus. Godzilla went on hiatus for 9 years.
Right.
Could you imagine? I'm trying to think of what other series would do that and come back and be successful.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park went on a pretty long hiatus.
Yes.
But and again, part of it was because that Jurassic Park 3 was not as successful financially.
Yeah.
And James Bond did the same thing. License to Kill in 1989 wasn't a flop, but it wasn't as big a hit as they were hoping, and the series was put on ice for 6 years before they came back with GoldenEye in 1995. So
Yeah.
it's hard to think of it now, because either if your series is a hit, they're just going to keep making them, right? It's when your series is not a hit that you like, oh, there's not going to be another one of these, like the Tom Cruise Mummy, that killed the Dark Universe in one fell swoop,
Fell swoop.
Nobody wants more of these.
Yeah. It's a real shame
because
it's a real shame because the Dark Universe would have been, well, what they were suggesting would have been very interesting.
Yeah, and the Universal Monsters did the shared universe thing long before anybody ever thought of it, So back in the 40s.
I'm just saying but I mean, if you think about it, like the whole, that the Dark Universe thing would have been like, okay, this could have been really, really interesting, but it just didn't pan out. Which is, again, that's another podcast for another day.
It's a whole other podcast, but
right.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, had this been a financial success, they would have made another one.
Yeah,
that's what it boils down to. So
trying to think of like so you think about this. Just I mean, I know Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
For JP3, then going to Jurassic World, but I think also technology changed so much from JP3 to Jurassic World. It made Jurassic World much more feasible.
Yes.
And
I think James Bond might be the better example there, because that one was a series, a long-running series. It wasn't like a trilogy or anything like that.
Yep.
Whereas it was a long-running series where you got installments every year or 2 years, and then it went on hiatus, and then when it came back, it stayed on track again.
Yep.
And now we're seeing the situation after GoldenEye. You got the 4 movies came out regularly after that. And then we had a little bit of a break before Casino Royale, and then the series continued. It's just there was not the pace anymore. It wasn't. Hollywood was more tolerant of a different pacing at that point for that series.
And if you think about it, like GoldenEye was a hit.
GoldenEye was a big hit. Yeah.
Well, think about Godzilla, Return of Godzilla.
Yeah.
That was like, people were like, this is the movie. This is G. That's what it was. It was so crazy to think that, like, you kind of go out with this whimper, and then you come back with, like, okay, like, there's a lot of people who look at Return of Godzilla / Godzilla 84, in this country, Godzilla 85. That might be the first Godzilla movie they ever saw, like, either in the theater or like as a new movie, not like an old movie.
That it was the first new Godzilla movie you and I saw. I mean, I remember we were 5 and 7.
I mean, even we saw we saw GoldenEye, and then now we are old enough to have seen James Bond movies in the 80s.
Yes,
we saw GoldenEye in the theater.
Yeah.
So
GoldenEye is 95, so we're in high school at that point.
Yeah, we went with Mom.
With Mom. Yeah, to Danbury.
Yeah, and I mean, GoldenEye is. You have to buy Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, but as somebody who likes George Lazenby as James Bond, and I do, Honor Majesty. I'm just going to say this right now: Honor Majesty Secret Service. If that was Sean Connery, it would be one of the most beloved James Bond movies of all time. Because it's George Lazenby, people hate it for no good reason.
No good reason.
Anyway,
people watch it, it's like, "Whoa, that was good." It's like, I told you.
Yeah, it's always everyone who sees it goes, "That was pretty good." I just don't know that, because it has my favorite line. Maybe any James. This never happens to the other guy. It's always the, what do you call it? But what I'm saying is, that's kind of the thing. The Godzilla movies, Godzilla changes movie to movie slightly, right? Kind of thing. It's the same idea. James Bond, played by the same guy. Sean Connery's not the same movie to movie. He's slightly different. He's older. He's whatever. And then we got to Lazenby George Lazenby for one movie, and then we got to Roger Moore. Then we got Timothy Dalton. But at no point you're sitting going, I mean, say what you will about Timothy Dalton, because people like to not like Timothy Dalton as Bond.
Yeah,
it was a different interpretation. I get it. He's not as tall. He's not whatever. Each one of them brought their own stuff to it. The same thing can be said about every Godzilla movie. Each Godzilla and each even if it's the same suit actor, even if it's the same effects guy, they're always a little bit different. Each movie brings its own flair. And the one in the 70s, each one of them is so much different, and yet at the same time has the same connective tissue.
Right. Absolutely.
That's why this movie, I think, rings true with Americans. The Terror of Mechagodzilla is such a big movie here. Again, availability is, the best ability is availability, right? It being available, it being what you saw probably more of, but it gave you Mechagodzilla, it gave you Godzilla, it gave you fight scenes, it gave you aliens, it gave you jet planes, it gave you Titanosaurus, even if no one else liked them but me. It gave you cyborgs, and it wasn't boring, and that's really what it comes down to.
I will say this, good, bad, or otherwise, that G-rated cut.
Yeah.
Because just being cut down 4 minutes, it gallops along.
It
never stops. So watching that on TV, it flies by.
Right.
This one is a bit more thoughtful. Mm-hmm. So it's a better experience. But I always remember as a kid, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, don't blink because this one's going.
So, but yeah, just kind of thinking about those things when you think about the movie, and as we look back. And I say we in the royal sense. We look back on the Godzilla movies and kaiju in movies and any kind of things. You look back at cinema. I always say to Dad, not every movie needs to change your life. And Dad always says, every movie is someone's favorite.
Yes.
Right. Kind of thing, which is two very, it's like it's just the two ends of the of the spectrum there. Right. Every single movie, no matter how good, bad, and different you might feel about it, is someone's favorite movie.
Yes.
So that person's going to die on that hill that this is the greatest movie of all time, and that's fine. But every single movie you see doesn't have to change your life. So just because you watch a movie and you have an enjoyable 80 to 90 minutes, and you're like, yeah, but I didn't my life isn't any different because of this. It doesn't have to be. That's why I think this movie, if there was another movie after this right away, like if there was another one in this series, then I don't know if this would be. I don't know if it would be looked upon in the same way it is in the East as it is, differently than in the West, because of the way we consumed it 3 years later. Remember, it was consumed in 1978 for most part in the U.S.
Right.
Right. So it came out 3 years later. We had a Godzilla movie in a while. Like, hey, here's Godzilla. Hey, this seems like fun. And I was going to throw this out there. We saw this with Bird-Eye Gordon, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and things like that. Yeah. And as television,
no, wait a minute. Bird-Eye Gordon is not that. Irwin Allen is Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah. Not Bird-Eye Gordon. Sorry,
Bird-Eye Gordon is Amazing Colossal Man and Empire of the Ants. Yeah.
Yeah. Irwin Allen. Sorry. We saw that as television was introduced in America, and television programs came. I'm not talking about like Howdy Doody and Lassie and stuff like that, but people got to the point where you would go to a movie to see a movie. Movies weren't on television. Yes. Universal sold through the Shock Theater, and they sold through Shock and then Son of Shock, and it was all the old movies, and they were shown again. I didn't have to go to. Dracula's going to be on tonight. I don't have to go to the movie theater to see Dracula. See Dracula here at home.
Right.
That's how a lot of Americans consumed Godzilla.
Yes.
It wasn't in a theater; it was at home.
It was at home. Yeah, and that and that was one of the other challenges Toho was facing, is that with the economic downturn in Japan, more people were staying at home, especially kids. I could stay at home and watch Ultraman and Kamen Rider and the Super Sentai. I don't need to go, round up some yen to go to the movie theater. I can watch Ultraman every week.
Yeah.
So that was one of the challenges that they faced. And again, that was one of the reasons that the film started becoming the series became less profitable. But you're right. It was how we consumed Godzilla. It was the same way we talk about James Bond. I talk about this with my friend from England. I said, as a kid, I consumed James Bond on TV. It was 13 Days of 007 on TBS.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, how many times did I watch freaking Diamonds Are Forever on TBS as a kid? I mean, that was on every night. It seemed like they liked that one, But so it's that, and so it changed that how eventually it would change how we consume it. Now there's a whole generation of folks that they only know Godzilla through watching him at the theater, and that's awesome. I love that there's a generation our kids' age that they only know Godzilla as tentpole movies.
Yep.
I mean, yes, our kids also know the older ones, but Godzilla's a big deal monster to a whole nother generation, because just like King Kong, there's value in these monsters, and they will always speak to people, and they will always have their audience because of the way that they're created and the value that they have. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just say I know I've kind of gone all over the map with certain things, folks. I know that it leads to a longer episode. I hope our discussion, though, of what we're talking about, again, even if things might seem a little far afield, that we kind of tie them in where we're going. Things do have a purpose and a reason.
Yes.
Sometimes people don't always. They're like, wait, you kind of take you kind of like go the long way around, kind of thing. But
yes.
The one thing I can honestly tell you is that as somebody who is not anywhere near the Daikaiju fan that my brother is, I have consumed more Godzilla and Daikaiju with my brother, and especially through television and stuff we were just talking about, than anybody else ever. And as much as I watch a lot of movies with my wife and my daughter or whatever, I will never be able to watch as many as Luke and I have watched together. As much of this stuff, we've gone through this stuff together and have a shared experience. And that's part of what I think makes some of these movies mean so much more to people. If you, I mean, we didn't do this, but like, let's say you would go to your grandparents' house on a Saturday afternoon, and you and your grandpa sat down and watched the Godzilla movie on Channel 5. We're going real local, kind of thing. Yeah, maybe that holds meaning to you. There are people who have said to me, "Oh, I don't watch wrestling anymore," which is okay, because I don't know why I watch it sometimes.
Yeah.
But said, I loved watching wrestling with my grandmother, with my grandfather, with my cousins. It was an experience, a shared experience. That right there often makes things that might not be on a par cinematically or at a entertainment level normally, so some people, mean so much more because you shared that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I don't think we've buried the lead here. I think both of us really enjoyed watching Terror of Mechagodzilla, especially now in its uncut form. Jay, like I said, as soon as I came to Terror of Mechagodzilla, I knew I had to have you on. I did not realize this was going to be a journey of discovery for both of us as far as this uncut version. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out, and I want to thank you for joining me on the show. Like I said, we wait inevitably for we wait patiently for the return of Titanosaurus to the big screen. Why don't you tell the listeners where else they can find you on the internet?
So if you found Earth Destruction Directive, then you can find Bots, Bugs, and Babes, the B-movie podcast. That's where it's mostly our dad and myself speaking about B movies, covering everything from back in like the 1920s and 30s all the way to modern day. And of course, I've had many guests on. We mentioned John LeMay before in his book series. My brother, of course, has been on several times in the past. This past year alone, we've talked about RoboCop. We have episodes coming up about like Garfield's Halloween, stuff like that. So it's Bots, Bugs, and Babes. That's an all ages show, just like Earth Destruction Directive. So no bad words. There might be some silly giggles and whatever, but there's nothing on there that would be objectionable content wise by way of language for your children. The movies might not always be good but also you can hear Luke and I together on the Vault of Starling Monster Horror Tales of Terror, along with hair metal hero Chris Tyler and Two True Freaks OG himself, Chris Honeywell. That show is not all ages.
No,
because people have bad potty mouths, and it's me. I say lots of bad words, but it's okay. We talk about horror movies, so if you are of an older persuasion, okay with those kind of words, check us out there. Also, you can check Luke, myself, and the hair metal hero Chris Tyler out on Get Back to the Wrestling. Finally, there's a show on the internet about professional wrestling, where we talk about all kinds of professional wrestling. That also is not all ages. just because we slip every now and then, and there might be a bad word here and there, or somebody might mention Vince Russo, and things might get said. So just keep that in mind,
bro.
Just keep that in mind if you're listening to those and you have your kids there, that we do mark them as explicit, but that those episodes could contain language that might not be suitable for all listeners.
Yep.
Also, those obviously, if you, sorry, Luke. So for those of you who are on Facebook and you check the Two True Freaks stuff on Facebook, I regularly post our episodes there. You also you'll see my artwork and stuff like that as well. Paintings. Those also might not be suitable for all ages, but that's because there might be a little no nudity, but it might be a little too horrific for some kids. So.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So please check those out. All good stuff. It's surreal to me listening to Bots, Bugs, and Babes, because it's conversations I've had with people I've had them with. But
yes.
If you like Earth Destruction Directive, Bots, Bugs, and Babes will be right in your wheelhouse for sure. So again, I want to just take an opportunity to thank everybody for listening to the show and sticking with us. Again, I know we went a little far afield, but I think we did this film justice. I'm not going to do the feedback. We do have some feedback out there. I want to thank everyone for all the love on social media, on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. I want to remind everyone that you can find the show on YouTube. Just search for Earth Destruction Directive on YouTube and you'll find our channel there. So please like and subscribe and put some other content up there. We do have the Yes, He Was Eaten remix. Featuring Burl Ives and Lee McCloskey. That is out there. Also, I just put up an unboxing for the rewards for the Stomped Issue 3 Kickstarter, which look forward to covering Stomped Issue 3 from Ross Radke and company here on the podcast in the future. Do also want to take an opportunity to say that if you are that Earth Destruction Directive is for everyone. If you are a fan or interested in Japanese giant monster culture, you can interact with the show in any level that you feel comfortable. We're not a gatekeeping show. We're not an elitist show. We're a fan show, and we celebrate Japanese giant monsters, and all are welcome to do that here. Again, listen, if you want to get in touch with the show, Earth Destruction Directive at yahoo.com. All the ways to get in touch are in the outro to the show. And Jay, as we like to say, we must always be looking forward. And next time, this movie that we covered, it's the end of an era, right? It's the end of the Showa Godzilla films, and we've been covering quite a few end of the eras as the show is. The show has been going for more than 11 years now, so we've hit quite a few end of the eras that we've covered. Well, we've got one more end of an era to cover next month, because next month we're sticking with film. We're going to jump ahead about 20 years, and we're going to jump over from Toho over to Dai, because we are taking a look at Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris, the final film in the Gamera Heisei trilogy. And you want to talk about a film, this movie was a movie with all the feels. That movie's got all the feels too. And it also has a strong female lead character too, interestingly enough. So please come by and check that out. I have really enjoyed rewatching those Heisei. Again, rewatching Advent of Legion, Attack of Legion. Man, it was like being 20 years younger and watching it for the first time. Watching it critically to do it for the show. So I'm hoping to get a similar experience from Revenge of Iris. The Incomplete Struggle, as it was also known during that era. So please come back for that. That should be a lot of fun.
And they're very clean on the Blu-rays.
Oh yeah,
Blu-rays are very not that they were horrible back in the day, but I'm telling you, if you had it taped off of like HBO copy, this is much cleaner. So
this is a big step up for sure. So very much looking forward to the Incomplete Struggle. I always called it Incomplete Struggle because that was the title that it was marked, that I knew it as. And then it's like, no, it's supposed to be called Revenge of Iris. And I'm like, really? I like Incomplete Struggle. It's very Japanese sounding, And I do remember Dad saying, well, wait, is it the whole movie? Yes, it's the whole movie, Dad. It's not, that's not what the incomplete part means, But,
that was so funny.
But in any event, once again, thank you everyone for downloading and listening. Jay, thank you again for being my guest. Hope everyone enjoyed us talking about Terror of Mechagodzilla, and hope everyone will come back next month, or next time out, I should say, for Gamera 3 Revenge of Eris. And until next time, keep 'em stomping.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jason Giaconetti. You may recognize my voice from the Vault of Starling Monster Horror Tales of Terror, and if you don't, you should be listening. But today I need to ask you a few questions. Do you like big bugs and you cannot lie? Other robots just can't deny that when the Queen of Space walks in and puts a blast in your face that your gears get sprung? Are you deep in the bee we're sharing? Are you hooked and you can't stop staring? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then have I got a podcast for you. Bots, Bugs, and Babes, the B-Movie Podcast. From classics to cults and all the yummy, yummy cheese in between. Look for my new show, Bots, Bugs, and Babes, on the Two True Freaks Network and on iTunes. That's Bots, Bugs, and Babes, the B-Movie Podcast. Double J on the Triple B is your hookup. Holler if you hear me.
This has been Earth Destruction Directive, a Daikaiju podcast, produced and created by me, Luke Giaconetti, as part of the Two True Freaks Internet Radio Network, available at twotruefreaks.com. This is a fan work celebrating the history and culture of Japanese giant monsters. All movies, TV shows, comic books, characters, and other intellectual property is copyright their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied. If you would like to send an email to the show, you can email me at earthdestructiondirective@yahoo.com. I try to respond to all emails, and if you send in some comments, I will read them on the show. All episodes of Earth Destruction Directive can be found at twotruefreaks.com. You can also find the show on your favorite podcatcher. Just search for Earth Destruction Directive. You can even leave a review on your podcatcher of choice if you'd like. You can find me on Facebook. Just search for first name Luke, last name EDD. You can also get in touch with me on Twitter. Just search for the handle @LJacone. That's LJACONE. The theme song for this podcast is Future Gladiator by Kevin MacLeod. Downloaded from Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening, and be sure to come back next time for more city-stomping fun here on Earth Destruction Directive. Tune in next time to hear the crusty old podcaster from Oklahoma say,
There's a WTF moment if I ever saw one.